seconds and counting. Astronaut report, it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start.
And look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
It is Daniela Ryf that is blowing this field up.
The fight is not over.
Here comes the red carpet.
Women's podium locked and loaded.
Exciting end of the day racing.
They're both not giving up. Heats it up at the finish line here.
Here comes your men's champion.
Welcome to the Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission. This is St. George, Utah, and I tell you what, it has been a long, long time coming for another Ironman World Championship to come to Utah. There is no better place, and to have this cast of characters absolutely unbeatable. I'm Michael Lovato, excited to be here with my very favorite Didi Griesbauer. Didi, how do you see this race today? What a venue.
Oh, what a venue, and the conditions. It's not just this course. This course in and of itself is going to throw all sorts of challenges at the athletes. But aside from the course, the conditions on the day, we're going to have some really scorching high temperatures later this afternoon. The winds are going to be up. What a great spot for a world championship. It will truly be an Ironman athlete who takes the win here today for the men and the women.
That's correct. And we do have a whole amazing cast of characters, the professional men and women, as well as age groupers from around the world, making Southwest Utah, this beautiful part of the United States, their home for the week. And we're excited to say that we've got a really nice kickoff for today's show. Didi, we're not alone. You and I have the studio locked down today, but we've got folks in St. George in the mix with it, including our very own Greg Welch. We're going to get to talk to him. He's going to get to be checking out these people on the beat, on the scene, getting body marked, all those nerves. I can feel them building.
Right now, we're looking at scenes of the athletes arriving to the transition area, getting those last-minute adjustments to the bike, pumping up the tires. We see conditions on the day, the weather forecast, high temperature of 80 degrees. I believe it's going to get a little bit higher than that even. That's 26 degrees Celsius. Humidity very low at 15%. Water temperature, 73 degrees. That has gone up almost 5 degrees in the last week. So athletes, while that's cold water, they're going to actually feel warmer than they would have even a week ago. So that's good news. Right now, the wind's very calm at 9 miles an hour. Again, we anticipate those will climb throughout the course of the day, Michael.
That's right. And you can see those temperatures. We are actually even possibly going to see a tick up to 32, 33 Celsius, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, a little warmer. And I tell you what, Didi, as you know, in this arid climate, it comes up hot quickly.
Oh,
you feel every bit of it.
It sure does. I mean, I'm surprised it's actually as warm as it is now. This is sort of a high desert climate, so the mornings, the evenings, the nights and mornings tend to be a little bit chilly. It's a little bit warmer, currently 71 degrees, so not a concern for the athletes, and I think that's going to be good news when they come out of that cold water. They won't be quite as freezing as I had feared a few weeks ago when we looked at the weather. We're looking down at some of our great volunteers here out there supporting our athletes. That young guy gonna have quite a day ahead of him, cheering on all of these athletes as they arrive to transition, getting ready for the day ahead.
That's right. We have over 4,600 Intermountain Healthcare volunteers on hand. These people really are the nuts and bolts of the race. They keep it going. Let's say they get it going.
Yes.
They keep it going, and they make sure everyone gets to the finish line safely. So we couldn't do it without these volunteers. That sounds cliche, but really we couldn't. And we thank everyone because guess what? Volunteer means they show up without pay. They show up too, and they come in force.
Well, you talk about the number of volunteers. We have, 4,600 volunteers. On the athlete side, we're going to have 80 countries represented here today with 3,551 racers. Our youngest male, 18 years old. Our youngest female, just 21 years old. Our oldest athletes on the male side, 78 years old. And our oldest female, 73 years old. Those athletes are making their way into transition right here with this woman. That's our defending world champion, Anna Haug.
Yeah, she's getting direction from some of those officials and volunteers, all of our staff, but she's our defending champ almost 3 years ago. So you start to realize a lot has happened. It's really remarkable to say that, and we are calling this the 2021 championship because we had that one postponed to this year. We will have another 2022 championship later. But here's the cool thing about this. These athletes have been chomping at the bit since, let's say, October of 2020 when we first missed out on a world championship. So it's exciting. There's always an excitement, Didi, when you wait 12 months. But think about this, 30 months, that's a long time to wait.
It's a very, very long time to wait. The longest we've ever had in that duration. Now, ironically, because of the pandemic, while it's been that long, there were fewer races to actually qualify at, but we do have the cream of the crop here. Both our professionals and our age group athletes were in for quite a treat here today.
That's right, and you're getting a look here about how it plays out. These athletes that stream in to transition, you get every type. You get the folks that show up early, you get the folks that show up late. Everybody handles their stress differently. As we look in here on Kevin Portman from France getting marked, he's got the Ohana shirt, so it's nice to get a little nod to our Hawaiian roots, and Ohana, of course, means family, and so it's kind of a nice way to see Kevin Portman get that tattoo placed right on his forearm there. Didi, it's kind of interesting to see where we mark on the forearm now instead of the upper arm. Why is that?
Well, the race kits nowadays, we know that some of the high-tech fabrics faster than human skin, so a lot of the athletes having race kits that go down to just above their elbow. So in order to see those markings, we put them on the forearms. We've got Greg Welch down with our athletes. Let's send it down to Greg.
Is just about to kick off. It is also presented by Utah Sports Commission right down here at Sand Hollow Reservoir, and it's a beautiful morning. We've just been told that the water temperature is 64 degrees. Wetsuits obviously will be worn today, and it's going to be a pleasant swim for our athletes. As a matter of fact, in a couple of minutes' time, they'll make an announcement on whether it will be the full swim or a contingency will go into place. But my guess is all going to happen at full length. So we have a few athletes that are standing by and coming through our area right here. This is the body marking show early on in the day. So if you're joining us from around the globe, welcome to our show here today. Good evening, good morning, afternoon from wherever you're coming from. Around about 5,000 athletes are going to be competing here today, and we cannot wait to crown a new champion on new soil right here in St. George, Utah. So we're just going to wait and stand by for a few of our athletes, and we'll get right back to you.
I tell you what, that is some exciting stuff. To see Greg in action again down there with those athletes, he's going to get to see all the stars. We did see Sky Mint from USA, one of our favorites, Utah resident herself down in St. George, kicking off her first Ironman World Championship as a pro athlete. It's shocking to say. I mean, it feels like just yesterday, though, she was winning that Ironman European Championship in Germany, in Frankfurt, and that was quite a show where she came through and took out that title. But Didi, it's really remarkable when you hear people that come to this level and they're competitive and they're threats and they're saying things like, well, I've never really done this before, so it doesn't matter. And we have a number of those athletes.
Oh, the number of rookies in our professional field, we're looking at one of them right here. This is Kelly Philnow. She's from the United States of America. She will be out there competing today alongside her sister, who is an age group athlete. Together they run a coaching business, but she's getting marked up there. The number of rookies we have in this field, I mean, the number of professionals who hadn't even done an Ironman the last time we had a World Championship event. So many of them here qualified over the course of the last couple of years, have been waiting to race their first World Championship. But then the veterans, we've got the likes of Daniela Ryf, who is no stranger to World Championship competition. She's been waiting, and I think knowing what you're missing, I think is an extra motivation, because she knows what it feels like to stand on top of the podium at a World Championship event, and she's been waiting for that opportunity for years.
That's true. What a great point. I love it when we come up this late into a show talking about Daniela Ryf, just the dominant figure since 2014 at Ironman, and then, of course, in 2019.
With our 4-time Ironman world champion, 5-time Ironman 70.3 world champion, Daniela Ryf. Danny, welcome to St. George, Utah. How different does it feel to be here in Utah as opposed to Kona?
I'm not thinking about Kona now. Yeah. I'm here. It's going to be a big day, big race, a very challenging course. So I feel prepared, but it's a a very tough course. So you just have to be patient and do everything right to actually come out well of this course.
Yeah, I think the bike course suits you down to the ground, also the run as well. So get out there, have a great race today, Danny, and see if you can make it number 5.
Yeah, I'll definitely give my best and try to go as hard as I can, for sure.
All right, good luck. Okay, that's Daniela Ryf, 4-time Ironman world champion. Absolutely amazing athlete. She hasn't started off that well this year, but never write off an Ironman world champion.
Just like Greg is, also a former Ironman world champion. Great to have him, as always, a part of our team. And just referencing, coming back with what he said with Daniela Ryf, she's won Kona 4 times. She's also won a total of 14 Ironmans. And she also has dominated. This is crazy. I wrote this stat down the other day. She's won 21 70.3s. Think about that. She's been dominant all distance. And this one gets me every time. She's only 34. So how did she do all that? She's only 34, and she's just racking up the results. And I don't think, even if she is on a, let's say, shakier start for her, I don't think we've seen the last of her. She's someone that knows how to do it.
She absolutely knows how to do it, and we're so unfair to Daniela. We hold her to a higher standard, right? If she's winning, but not by quite as much as she was in the past, we kind of say, it's not the Daniela of old, but she's still winning. I mean, let's not forget her year last year. She was dominant in her racing last year, taking home wins at the 70.3 Dubai, Ironman 70.3 St. George, Ironman Tulsa, Ironman 70.3 Switzerland, and Ironman Switzerland. She literally was undefeated across her Ironman racing until she got to the 70.3 World Championship. And because she didn't win that, we're like, she's off her game, and that's not fair. She is absolutely dominant and someone who knows how to win under pressure of a world championship event. I think people are counting her out, including some of the rookies that have never raced her, and I think that's going to play to her advantage.
There's nothing more dangerous, right, than a former champion that's under the radar. It's a double threat, right? She's getting you on both sides. But here's the other thing that's kind of cool. She, for how many years, she had that focus, that she had that extra bit of pressure. You could tell she was a tiny bit nervous, but she's also not going through what she did at her undefeated segment of years, because there were times she had not been beaten at any distance. And so now people love her, people root for her, but there's not that massive pressure. Something tells me her week this week was probably a little bit more quiet than it was at any of her other world championships.
Well, I think, again, a lot of the focus has been on some of these hotshot rookies coming up the line, and people have wrongly written Daniela off that she had that shocking performance at Oceanside where she was quite a ways back and then ultimately was disqualified for a bike violation, going too fast through a speed zone there. So the result didn't even stand, and I think she's probably happy to erase that one off the books. Not what we're used to seeing from her, but again, we know she can do it. So we look for a lot from Daniela today, particularly on this challenging course.
That's right. And as you mentioned, some of these people that are the rookies or are coming up on our radar, we have been talking about them all week. It's exciting when we see them. Of course, we'll talk about them. But let's just get in a little bit to some of those names, because you said it before, and I'm going to give you full credit. You brought up the name Kat Matthews. I think a lot of folks that have been following the sport are going to say, yes, obviously that's a big pick. But what about the folks that just don't know her exploits and her sort of quick? I mean, she's gotten better every single year, and she was good when we first saw her.
Yeah, no, she is a remarkable athlete. We're looking at another world championship rookie right there in the background. That's Skye Munch, the American. She has been so steady, so consistent, so dominant, but hasn't had a chance to race a world championship event. She was qualified for the 2019 Ironman World Championship. The last time we hosted an Ironman World Championship event, she had a horrific bike crash just weeks before that, kept her on the sidelines, and who knew at the time that she'd have to wait all of these years. So she's got a hunger in her belly as well. She's another World Championship rookie we'll be looking for later today.
That's right, and super happy. I enjoyed watching a Fighting Chance with her where she was talking about her creamed honey. If you haven't seen that, you know what I'm talking about, pull that up, because it just gives you, I think, a real flavor of an athlete that we start to look at and say, are they just like us? Are they real people? Because these athletes are so impressive. But she's in there talking about her breakfast, having the giant vat of creamed honey. Anyway, a Utah resident, as we said, Skye will be dynamic throughout. She's so good across, I think, just a strength course like this. And you have to bring that up at some point. Everyone's referenced this. Didi, real quick, as we wait for folks like Braden Curry, who another 4-time Ironman winner, by the way, a dominant character and top 10 in Kona. This guy's really good across the board, swim, bike, and run. But I want to ask you this. What does it mean to have a strength course? Why do people keep bringing that up? I mean, strong, fast, what's the difference here?
Well, we're looking, of course, at the course topography. The elevation gain on this course is staggering. It's going to be hugely challenging for the athletes. Of course, we'll do a full course preview later on, but there's over 7,000 feet of climbing and elevation gain on this course. So it's going to suit the athlete with that kind of strength. It's not going to favor the aerodynamics quite as much as a flatter course. We wrapped up our year with Ironman Florida at the end of last year. A course like Florida going to favor the aerodynamics. This is going to favor the athlete that's good, strong climbing, that has those bulletproof legs, because then when they get to the run course, again, 2 loops over 1,400 feet or 430 meters of climbing there. So the athletes that are not necessarily speedy, but strong and can tackle those hills and not have it beat their legs up and be strong through the end, that's the kind of athletes that's going to thrive on this course.
Understood. That makes great sense. And we're still looking at folks. You did get a good look at Matt Hansen, one of the American competitors that is a force to be reckoned with every single time he races, although he's a guy that you and I were joking, we may not see him even if he wins the race. You don't see the guy because he doesn't have the front pack swim, but he has an elite world-class bike run.
Well, and I can tell you, Matt Hansen's one of my training partners in Boulder, Colorado, and he has been working on that swim. I don't know that we'll see him in the front pack, but it has been a point of focus for him. I think he's also stronger on the bike than he's ever been, and is learning to not fear the bike and sort of save it for the run. You protect that strength. I think we're going to see a different race dynamic from Matt Hansen today. We've got Greg Welch down. He's got another athlete coming to us live from Body Marking, so we're going to keep our eyes out for Greg. All of these athletes coming in, you can feel the nerves down there.
21 Ironman World Championship presented by Intermountain Healthcare is certainly well underway, and Ruth Astle now joins us from the UK. Ruth, it's going to be a great day for you. This is a great course for you, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Wetsuit swim definitely helps, even though it's pretty cold in there. And then, yeah, the bike, just epic. Like, really suits me. Long, draggy climbs, long descents. And, yeah, it's just going to be a tough day out there. So I think that suits me pretty well.
Landscape. Talk about the landscape and then, the temperature. We may have humid.
And we're looking down here at Heather Jackson. So this is another top competitor that has vast experience at the Ironman World Championship at the distance. And she's someone that, Didi, you got something for me?
I giggle. We look at a veteran like Heather Jackson, and she's literally looking at her.
Too much. But yeah, I think it's kind of in some ways easier than Kona because it's not humid, but in other ways it's so dry. Some people get caught out by not drinking enough. You don't really realise how much you're sweating.
Yeah, great competition out there today. Also from the UK, Kat Matthews, Fanny Howell. Just
it's like, obviously it's the world champs. You've got the best leading. Lots said, part of just getting to the start line healthy. It's a real shame that obviously not everyone's here, but it's a world champ. People that are here have got a race, and whoever wins will be a very worthy world champion.
Sure will be, and we hope good luck.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
All right, well, the 2021 Healthcare Championship is coming to a close. Body Marking. We have our last couple of pro athletes come here, so we're looking forward to a start coming up at 6:15 local time.
That's great. We talk about an athlete like Ruth Astle. She's one of the rookies we've talked so much about. She took 2021 by storm, winning at both Ironman Mallorca and Ironman South Africa at the end of 2021. So she is a new name we're going to see in the professional field looking at her first Ironman World Championship.
Another not-so-new athlete there is Sebastian Kienle from Germany, the 2014 Ironman World Champ and a two-time Ironman 70.3 World Champ. So he's there with his back to the camera, a guy that really is just a hoot to watch. I love him before the race, after the race, during the race. He's got personality, but deadly serious. He prepares well. He's just a fun guy, all-arounder. And I would say that since we first saw him, when he couldn't swim, let's be honest, very well at all.
Yep.
Now he's just really devastating. And all three, he gets in there, he swims where he needs to swim, he bikes like nobody's business, and then he's just quite a quick runner, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and he's become a dad recently, which has given him new motivation in his racing. You know, he's an athlete who says he feels so at home here. He loves this course. He hasn't ever competed real well here, so he's looking to break that streak and have a great day. We're gonna go down to Greg, who's with Cam Wurf, who is now checking in, getting himself body marked. So we'll head down to Greg with Cam Wurf.
Intermountain Healthcare World Championship by Utah Sports Commission. One of my favourite athletes here, Cameron Worth, never short of a word, short of result. He come off the Paris-Roubaix just 2 weeks ago, riding at France, and now he finds at an Ironman World Championship. Great to see you here, mate. This course really suits you.
Well, people keep saying that, but you know, the course I'm most concerned about is the one right there. So you know, let's get first. And yeah, I love the hard part comes at the end. So that's something you often see. You know, it's a little bit like Kona with Kauai High, and that last part, you know, it's challenging there, and you tend to make a difference. A bit of sting out of the run, you know, for the run. So if that will cost. So yeah, obviously I'm going to do everything I can to swing the race in my favour.
Well, you certainly just told me about that, so that's absolutely incredible. And then going into the run, like you said, if you've got a couple of minutes up on everyone, how's the run form?
You know what, I've got to be prepared to do everything. So, you know, I've swam as much as I can, I've run as much as I can, considering my preparation, you know, racing on the road all season. And yeah, you got to believe in yourself, don't you? You know, you're here at a World Championship, you get minimum chances to have these days, and I'm just going to leave it all out there.
Awesome. Okay, Cam Wurf from Australia, one of our favourites today. Good luck, mate.
Cheers.
Get out there and kill it. All right, that's it for our body marking show. We're going to right there, and we'll see you with all the action coming up in just a little bit.
Didi, I have to say this. Cam Wurf, he's such a giant personality. I felt like he was going to be just towering over Greg all day long.
Well, you talk about Cam Wurf, though, the athleticism in that man. Started his career as a rower. He's an Olympian in rowing, double scull rowing, back in the Atlanta Games. As he mentioned, now rides for a professional cycling team as well. And he said his biggest hurdle is going to be that swim. He's had some good swims. He's had some dreadful swims. So we'll see what kind of work he's got cut out for him when he comes out of Sand Hollow.
Out of Portugal, Pedro Gomez getting marked here today. This guy, an Ironman winner in his prime, very competitive, still quite good. Obviously, he's at the World Championship start line. As we come back to the man we were talking about earlier, Sebastian Kienle, and here, this is precision. This is pure precision. Every drop going into that bottle, that front mount bottle, really taking care of all the details. It's fun to get a look in. We don't get to do this, Didi, at most of the races, but for our World Championships, to have a body mark show, to have a transition show, to get in here and really see this live, talk to them. I didn't feel a bit of nerves on Cam Wurf, by the way, but typically you can kind of sense that, who's nervous, who's excited, who's bluffing. So all that, and I have to say this, Cam Wurf, what a comment. The toughest course he's got to face is the first one, the swim.
The swim.
That might tell me he hasn't been swimming much in the last
well, I
weeks.
imagine when you're representing a professional cycling team, they don't give you a lot of time off to hit the pool. So, you know, he's got it in him, though. We've seen him have some decent swims. He's not going to be a front pack swimmer, but all of these athletes, as soon as they come out of that water, they're going to look right, look left, see who's with them, see, you know, who their allies might be as they take to the bike course. And he's an ally that a lot of these men are going to want to have.
That's right, and you have to think back to the very last time we had an Ironman World Championship. Cam Wurf took 5th, so right up there competing. As we come to Haley Chura.
You talk about an athlete who's going to be just fine in the water compared to Cam Wurf.
Completely happy in the water. This 5-time Ironman 70.3 champion, and she did win Ironman Brazil. So Haley Chura from the USA, she's a great dynamic figure. We've seen her up front with Lucy Charles and Lauren Brandon. She's one of those swimmers, can do it.
She took some time before the pandemic to actually focus on her running, ran in the Olympic marathon trials. So her run has really come a long way. During that time, I think her bike faded a little bit, but her bike is starting to come back, so she could be a triple threat as well.
Triple threat, I like it, and she wears green, so she's always easy to find. As we come back and get a nice look. So set the scene for folks that haven't been at a World Championship, which you've done multiple times, Didi. Is this a part that you look forward to? You dread it? What's going on here for most of these people? Excitement, nerves? I don't know. What are they feeling?
I think the nervous energy, it comes and goes, right? Riding on the transportation out to the venue here, there would have been a lot of nerves. Now they're in the transition. They get to fidget, right? We see all of the athletes tinkering with their bike, loading the nutrition on, making sure everything is as it should be. We see Sam Long here turning on that bike computer, making sure he's calibrated into his power meter. Having something to do, right? They have a job to do here, and I think that helps settle the nerves a little bit. Once they leave transition and make their way towards the swim, I think those nerves come up again because they realize it is absolutely time to go. But once that gun goes off, it's all business. So I think right now the nerves have sort of calmed a little bit because they have something to do, they have a focus. But when they leave transition and make their way to the water, those nerves are going to be right back up.
Okay, so it's a roller coaster of nerves for most of these athletes. That's what I took away. As you look at these athletes that are getting ready, Didi, it is, you said the word fidget. And that's I don't disagree. How much of this is out of your control as well? You're sort of in there going like he's dialing down the valve. You're trying to hit the exact tire pressure. You're putting your exact drops in there. Is this a control like you say, hey, I really have to have this piece of control now because later I don't, maybe in the race? I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to stretch here for where these athletes really, or is it just, hey, just getting it done, the precision?
There is a condition that I think every athlete will agree should be listed in medical journals. It's called Ironman brain. I think the days leading into any Ironman, this condition gets worse when you enter a world championship event. You lose the ability to do basic things. Remember where you put your phone, how to pump up your tires, how to fit that valve onto the tire to get the air pressure just right. Things that are so simple, I think the nerves are starting to take over a little bit. They become much, much more difficult. So I think while they're fidgeting, they're not as efficient as they would be on a regular day when they're going out to do a ride and just pumping up the old tires. It's taking them much longer. They're overinflating, having to deflate, doing it again. Yeah, there's some nervous energy down there, Michael.
The other takeaway, Didi, I always have Ironman brain, and I haven't done an Ironman in 10 years, but something about that really resonated. Here's the thing. We're looking at these athletes. We're seeing them. We're going to pick them apart all day long. For us, this is kind of just a pastime. So we come in here. Folks are going to get to hear us talk about athletes. I want to just dive in again to some athletes that we haven't seen that I want to make mention of that are really under the radar. One that comes to mind, American Chris Leiferman. This guy has won 4 Ironmans. And he's got, when he's on form, yes, a devastating bike run, but truly sub 240 run in Louisville. And then also the ability to ride with anyone.
Yes.
So he's someone that we haven't talked about. What's the dark horse on the women's side like that? Do you have someone that comes to mind?
I think we saw her on camera. I think Ruth Astle. I mean, she's on a trajectory up. She's a rookie. Yeah. She doesn't know how nervous necessarily to be, but I think she is someone that we haven't talked a lot about, and people will say it's too soon. You can't win in your first Ironman World Championship. I think she's a bit of a dark horse and someone that people aren't talking about necessarily for the win, but I think she could feature in a big way to this race.
What about someone who can win in his first Ironman World Championship? This man, Christian Blumenfeld from Norway, has one Ironman title to his credit. Last year, he won Ironman Cozumel on fast conditions, but a ridiculously quick time.
Yes.
So he went in there and had a really great breakthrough, and he obviously won the gold medal in the 2020 Olympics last year, so keeping the dates together. But Christian Blumenfeld, this man is on the brain of every single person.
Yes.
And how can he not be?
Oh, absolutely. And what I loved about him, I was in Cozumel when he raced last year, and what I loved about him is how much he soaked up his Ironman experience. He was all about the crowds and the fans and his fellow athletes, saying hi to everyone, posing pictures with everyone, and really, really embracing the environment. And I think we've seen him do a bit of that here in St. George this week as well.
That impressed me as well, Didi, and also being down there to watch that on site. The guy's 27 years old. He's got these exploits. He's been incredibly successful, and he was soaking it up after the race. Before, like you said, taking selfies after the race before he had any recovery.
Yep.
He was just hanging out. He loved it. It wasn't like athletes that say, oh, enough is enough, I've got to get out of here. He was reaching for more selfies. He was reaching for more fans. It was fantastic.
And I think we see him with a quiet confidence today. The way his team, you talk about the Norwegians and how they train, very precise, very scientific, leaving nothing to chance. And I think that gives you a quiet confidence. Another man with a quiet confidence is the man we see here, putting his timing chip on his ankle. That's Ben Hoffman. a champion just 2 weeks ago at Ironman Texas. Talk to me, Michael, about what that might do to his chances today.
Well, this is a guy that always surprises me. 38 years old, Ben Hoffman from USA, 8 Ironman titles, one that he won 2 weeks ago. Ironman sticks around, and it stays in your body for a little while. So I wouldn't be surprised if he feels great, maybe a little rough on the swim, but great on the bike and great for some of the run. And then at some point, I think it's more surprising if he doesn't find that Ironman legs, the Ironman brain in his legs, right? Just something where all of a sudden there's a few miles to go and the legs just say, you know what, I did this already. I need to just kind of ease back. He could still be easy top 5, top 10 with that,
yep.
But maybe not winning, maybe not pushing had he not raced Texas.
You know, we hadn't seen him race an awful lot. They welcomed their second child. He and his wife, Kelsey, welcomed their second child just a year or so ago, and that has been a wonderful new addition to their family. But it took him a little bit away from the racing. He's had a quiet couple of years, but I actually will take the other side and say that win at Ironman Texas has given him some confidence that he is race ready. He was pushed in that race. That was a race down to the wire. He probably wouldn't have wanted that knowing he was racing here, but I think the way he trains will set him up to do pretty well here today.
And we're excited to tell you that the guy that we have on site that we always love hearing commentary and info from, and he's not too bad to look at, is the man, Matt Lieto. Matt, we're looking at you. It's great to have you here. What have you got down there on the beat?
You always help with my self-confidence, Michael, early in the morning. I appreciate it so much. Down here at the Pro Compound, things are getting heated up for sure. Everybody's checking in, getting those last-minute adjustments. I do want to kind of chime in on what you guys were talking about. Had the opportunity to chat with Ben Hoffman, known Ben for a long time, know kind of his training habits, and they did Texas so that Ben would be better for this race. He knows that that's different. Most people don't do an Ironman 2 weeks out, but Ben normally would be doing 27 hours 2 weeks out, and in some ways he could be more rested. And I will say he says he feels great. He kept it under control in Texas, and he's set himself up for a great opportunity for a race here today. Not many people have run 2:36 on this course, so watch out for Ben Hoffman. We'll see what happens. We have some athletes here getting ready. We can see some of our pre-race favorites. We had Daniel Bakkegaard is around the other side here. We can see Sam behind us. Dennis Chabreau is on the other side. We got Florian Anger getting ready. So a lot of these athletes that are going to be pushing the pace early in the bike and on the swim. We got Matt Russell, kind of one of our American favorites here. We just saw Braden Curry. He looks really excited and laid back and ready to go. And some of our pre-race favorites, we did see Cam Worf ready to go. He's one who spent some time on his bicycle in the Paris-Roubaix just a few weeks ago, and he's putting in that last-minute prep for today's race on his bike. And the women's side here, we have Ruth Astle getting her bike ready to go here in transition, and Laura Sedal just left her here as well, so she's getting ready to go. We got Heather Jackson on screen, very, very calm with Daniela Ryf in the background. But guys, this is a new course. It's a World Championship, and nobody's raced this course before, so there's nerves, but I think everybody's pretty excited. Are you guys excited?
Matt, I have a question for you. Every athlete you mentioned, you said looks calm, cool, collected. Somebody down there has to be melting down. Someone has to look nervous. Who's a bundle of nerves right now? Throw them under the bus.
Didi, you know that's the only reason I'm here. Totally. I want to see people stressing out, and I'm been walking around looking, trying to find. Hey, do you need help? Do you need help? No, nobody needs help. I mean, the most drama I saw this morning was Annie Hogg trying to find the spot on her disc where she could, had to untape the tape to pump up, and I thought there was going to be drama, but there was no drama, and excited for her on that. But honestly, I'm not seeing. In Kona, we always see, championship races, we always see stress, but there's something about this vibe that is, I hate to say, but I'm not seeing many nerves here this morning, Didi.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matt, it's always great to get your perspective, and there's a couple things I'll follow up. Is it possible that everyone's just very grateful because it has been so long, 30 months, really, since we had a World Championship? Is that what's going on, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has something to do with it, Michael. And I think, we talk about this every time we're at races after a break in the off season and going into a new season of races, that it's oh man, it's like a family reunion, right? Like we've seen people we haven't seen and we're catching up. And I think the athletes are so excited just to be here. And especially it's been over 900 days since we had a world championship. So these are some people that we haven't seen and these athletes haven't seen in 2.5, almost 3 years. So I think people feel like they're home to a certain extent. And I think that's exciting. Here's that athlete we were talking about earlier, Ben Hoffman. You guys want him to be a bundle of nerves, but he's not. He's calm. Daniel Backegard right here, he is an athlete that I will tell you right now, if you guys did not have him in your pick, he's one of those guys that can throw a bomb early where maybe some of the old-timers are like, man, that won't stick. And he's one of the guys that I think can make it stick if he's on the right day. So I think he's one for us to watch. But yeah, guys, what are your observations so far with what you've seen from those athletes going through body marking?
I've got one more question for you, because one of the things we've been talking about up here in the booth, of course, we're sitting in lovely air conditioning and quite comfortable, but we've been talking about the conditions on the day. So can you tell us a little bit right now? It's warm down there, obviously not hot yet. What's the wind doing? Do you notice the wind yet? We expect that to pick up throughout the day.
Didi, I know what you're doing. You're trying to find drama again. And at this point, there's no drama. I mean, every day this week, it's been chillier in the morning than we've wanted. If you're out here, it's been windier than maybe you've wanted. This morning, I came all bundled up. You can see I'm in my long sleeve. It's going to protect me from the sun later, but we expected it to be chilly. It's not cold at all. And just right now is actually the first little breeze I've felt all morning. And earlier this week, there was a lot more going around. So I think great news for those athletes that were maybe a little bit nervous about the swim being rough. One of those athletes just walked by, Bart Arnault. I know he wants a nice, calm swim. Wetsuit swim gives him a great opportunity to stay closer to that front group. That's a podium finisher, an athlete we know does well in the back half of races. And this back half of this race, guys, is pretty tough. But, Dee, to go back to your question, I think at least early in this bike ride, it's going to be pretty calm, and I think it's going to allow the groups to kind of get together if they want, and it's going to keep the dynamics a little bit tighter.
So Matt, you just gave a knuckle bump
and
there
I've got to
go for it. You take it away, Matt.
Yeah,
You've got something good. Give it to us.
Here we go. What I've got is someone that's going to join us today, and that's Lauren Brandon. She knows something about swimming, and she's going to help us kind of with inside information on the swim. And she knows something about World Championship races, coming off a good second-place finish here recently as well. How's it going, Lauren?
Yeah, it's going well. I'm so glad to be here and excited to see kind of what the day brings today.
Awesome. And Michael Didi, I know we're always used to commenting about how Lauren has the best smile in triathlon. There it is. There we go. It was generally, that's what she's on course, and I'll tell you what, I'm excited to have her next to me smiling this morning and giving that great insight. Lauren, have you been able to notice, I mean, those guys were commenting, we were chatting about the fact that I really haven't seen anybody nervous. Have you seen anybody nervous this morning?
No, I think there is a little bit of a different vibe than Kona. Like, people do seem a bit more relaxed, and I don't know, I think maybe nobody really knows what to expect today. It's a different course, and it's just going to be, they're going to go out there and have a great day.
Awesome. And, Michael was about to ask me who it was that I fist bumped, and that was Chris Leiferman. And again, both of you guys, Didi and Michael and Lauren, I think this race, you keep looking down the list, you're like, oh, I forgot about Leiferman. Like, this course suits him perfectly. And there's other athletes that, like, are there any athletes maybe that we're not all talking about, Lauren, on the men's or women's side that you think are like, oh, we kind of forgot about them?
I know, like you said, you go through the start list, and I mean, just person after person, they're going to be strong out there, and people that we're not talking about. Like, I just saw Andy Potts back there and other veterans. Like you said, we have Ben Hoffman, Chris Leiferman, Andy Potts all getting ready next to each other, and just strong athletes that I think have done really well in world championships in the past, and we definitely can't count them out.
Absolutely. And I think, Lisa Norden is one that maybe some athletes, she's had injuries. What is it about we want to not expect that silver medalist run because she's been injured? Tell us about why maybe we shouldn't overlook Lisa Norden. I just saw her.
I know Lisa Norden. I mean, yeah, she's only done 2 Ironmans, but she's had great Ironmans. Her first one, she won in Lake Placid, and then the second one, she was 4th. But she's someone. I mean, like you said, she's a silver medalist. So you definitely can't count her out. And I think she's going to be up there on the swim, on the bike. And if she's feeling good and has been healthy, then I think she can put together a great marathon, especially on a tough course like this.
Yeah, we're talking about someone who had a sprint finish for a gold medal in the Olympics and then moved over to bike racing and did a pretty good job there. Michael, what do you got?
I had a question for Lauren. Matt, we've been talking about the rookies versus the veterans.
Yeah.
Lauren had mentioned some of the veterans. How important is World Championship race experience when it comes to the potential to win here today?
So Dee Dee's question for you is, how important is it specifically in the women's race, and you can speak to the men's if you like, on World Championship experience at a World Championship race? This isn't a normal race.
I think today experience is going to come into play even more so because of the tough course. Like if you're going out too hard on that first climb, then I think you're definitely going to pay for it later. So I think the people who are especially experienced and kind of take their time, do their own race, I think they're going to be the ones coming out on the back half of the marathon coming on strong.
Awesome. And one of those athletes kind of just walked by and is behind us here, Angela Nath. She's been in a lot of world championships. She's having a lot of fun this year, doing some different racing, doing some gravel racing, and enjoying herself, but still focused on having a good race here at the World Championship. Now, specifically, let's talk about the swim. What about this swim is different? We talk about World Championship experience. Nobody has World Championship experience about swimming in a wetsuit for the Ironman.
Yeah, I mean, it's cold water, so I think it's about 60 degrees today, and it's going to be in a wetsuit, which is going to definitely change the dynamic out there. And I think we're going to see maybe some of the slower swimmers have less gap than they do in Kona. So I think there's going to be a lot of women swimming a bit faster than they do in Kona.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think that can help with the dynamics, right, and keeping, maybe some of the slower swimmers closer to the front of the race. Do you think that'll maybe tease some people into going a little bit harder early maybe than they're used to?
Yeah, I mean, especially on the swim, I do think you're going to have some of the packs just be closer to the front of the race. And then on the bike, I think everyone's going to be rearing to go. So it'll be an exciting day for sure.
Absolutely. And the word we got on course was that it was official swim temp is 64 this morning, which will be great news for anybody because that's significantly warmer than we had earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple days ago, I think it was 60, so that's a big difference. But it was pretty warm yesterday, and we're expecting a warm day today, too. So, I think that will help a bit. People aren't going to be as cold coming out because I know we're a little bit nervous about coming in transition, not being able to do helmets and put shoes on. So I think that will help, especially some of the smaller girls.
Okay, let's talk about World Championship experience. We got Daniela Ryf warming up behind us. You're in this small zone, and you're trying to get yourself ready for a race. I've seen her do this before. I saw her do this the morning that she won her first Ironman, running around the Kona Pier getting ready. Somehow, Lauren, Daniela is someone that isn't like the cool person to talk about at this race. Isn't the pick that everybody that she's not the pick that gets people's feathers ruffled. So what is it about that World Championship experience that could bite all these people and athletes maybe that I think most of her competitors do not underestimate her, but I know there's a few. Could that hurt them today?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It's Daniela Ryf. I mean, she can win any day that she comes up to the start line, and just because she's had a little bit of a rocky couple years, I think she's definitely gunning for the win. She said at 70.3 Oceanside, she wasn't feeling great, and she's been getting ready for this race. So you know how it is during an Ironman build. Sometimes you're a little tired for those 70.3, so I think we'll see her be getting to go today.
Yeah, absolutely. And another athlete with a bunch of World Championship experience is Andy Potts. I know he's been pretty excited to be the elder statesman. Can I take a second?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Andy, I've been telling people all week, your energy has not changed in the 15 years that I've known you.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to feed off of my kids at this point. No, it's exciting. I've actually really embraced it's the lifestyle and the training, and yeah, hopefully it comes out on race day, but good attitude goes a long way.
That's awesome. Is it easier for you in this situation where it's not like, okay, Andy Potts is going to come out with a 2-minute lead, like you can just like let everybody else do the thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like pretty low pressure for me. If I have a good day, great. If I don't, there's always tomorrow. Yeah, and there's always another race, and there's always another World Championships.
For you, there is. Next question: what are we going to see you and Cam Brown like racing age group when you guys are 65? Because you guys love this stuff so much.
All right, so maybe we'll both still be professionals. So don't put us in the age group yet. No, yeah, I saw Craig earlier. So yeah, why not? Sure. But like you look at McKeely's out there racing. I see other former pros racing. It's exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. We'll let you get back to it. You got something to do today. Have fun. Well, guys, lots of great action down here. Great personalities. And did he look stressed out, guys?
I tell you, if Lauren Brandon has the best smile on the women's side, Andy Potts got to have it on the men.
Now we got Lionel Sanders here getting ready. Good to go. Just 1 second, buddy. How's it going this morning, Bo?
Oh, not too bad, man. Just getting everything ready and got here on time. It's nice to be here on time and not feel rushed. The 70.3 last year, literally, I was getting my wetsuit on and they were calling the pros out of the water for warm-up being done. So trying to be a professional this year.
That's awesome. Can you, and you seem calm. And every athlete, I haven't seen any athlete like kind of panicking this morning. Is there something different about this World Champs and being back that there's like a calmness to it?
I don't think panic is really going to help your race in any way. So I think maybe just people are on top of their mental game for the most part. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the exact feel of Kona, but I mean, it's still a World Champs and it's a great opportunity. And it's, I mean, probably the first and only time it'll be outside of Kona. So it's now or never, really.
That's awesome. So what are you most excited about for today?
Excited. I'm excited and nervous about when the moment comes where I have to make decisions on the fly of nutrition and pacing. And I'm excited and nervous at the same time if I will have the discipline to make the correct decision, because I have made the wrong decision many, many times. And this is such a hard run course. I would like to run the second half well instead of walk the second half. So that's really my only goal for the day.
Man, I will say, I see a calmness and a focus in your eye that I don't know that I've seen before other World Champs, so I think you're going to do a great job making those decisions. Yeah, go get them. Have fun today. Appreciate it. Look at that. We've got Heather Jackson here. How are we doing, buddy? Yeah, so World Championship, and if you had to get on your computer and be like, Heather Jackson, make World Championship course that suits me perfectly, would this be it, like to a T?
Pretty much, yeah, for sure. Wetsuit swim, hilly bike, hilly run. So, yeah, super excited, nervous, trying to stay calm.
You're doing a pretty good job of it, I'd say.
I know you, so I'm good. We're good.
Are you pretty excited about like nice, calm swim, a little bit warmer? It's 64, they're saying this morning.
Yeah, for sure. I hope that's true because, yeah, it's been pretty chilly. Hands get cold. I was literally practicing every morning getting out of that water and trying to get out of the wetsuit, get the helmet buckled, and it was like, oh my God. So I've got the gardening gloves in case it's extra cold. They're actually white, so they're pretty fancy for the World Champs.
Yeah, if people, this is a lesson you learn from the pros. If you're at a race, you know it's going to be cold, go to the hardware store, $5, you get super fancy white gloves, yeah?
Exactly. So we'll see. Hopefully, yeah, it is warmer today, so that's exciting.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Lionel. What are you most excited about today?
I'm just excited, yeah, to be here, to have such a tough course as a World Champs. I mean, I think it could have gone anywhere, and for it to come here is exciting, especially for me liking the hilly courses. Most excited just to get out there and enjoy it. Like when I'm enjoying it, having fun, smiling, soaking it all in, that's, yeah, the best days. That's what we come out here to do, so.
I will say to her competitors and to you on screen, if you see Heather Jackson smiling, maybe running with that banana, everybody else is in trouble because she's on a good day, and we wish you the best. Have fun. You're going to do awesome. There we go. Another person with some great energy, guys. You guys are probably seeing some other things out with what's happening. I know we obviously chatter is some of those late polls. Gustav being sick. I was able to talk to his brother Mikkel a couple nights ago, and he's been battling this illness for a little bit. That it sounds like maybe Christian Blumenfeld had earlier before, and maybe Gustav got it around the same time. Christian seems to be feeling a lot better, but Mikkel said they went out on Thursday to do a little easy spin, and he said, he looked at me at dinner, he's like, man, he DNF'd the easy spin. He's like, we don't know how we're going to get around that. There's the answer's kind of facing them, and I know heartbreak for them, because that's a big focus for what they've been training for the last 6 months.
Another big did not start that was announced just last night, Alistair Brownlee. Do you have any information on what's behind that? Is that an illness as well, or a little injury that he's been nursing?
I don't want to speak directly whether or not there is an injury, but we do know he was feeling under the weather earlier this week. It seemed like it was one that was maybe not overtly super strong, but it's hard to know. Like, especially in a world championship in an Ironman Olympic distance race, maybe Alistair starts and gives it a shot and see how he feels. But so many of these athletes, if you start a world championship, they want to give it what it deserves and finish. And I'll tell you what, if you are sick and you're starting this course, it is going to be a brutal day. And the difference, guys, we've got a world championship in May, not in October. So maybe this is something let's give it a shot, last race of the year. But if you went through a whole Ironman just to get through in May being sick, it could hurt the next few months or the rest of your season.
That's a great point, Matt. And I think if you just really look at Ironman in general, so World Championship next level, but Ironman exposes all your weaknesses, doesn't it? So if you're in there with the sniffles, that could turn bad really quickly. So I think that the decision not to start by Brownlee and Eden was very wise, and I think unfortunately we see that. We saw that with Chrissy Wellington, you remember, a number of years back, did not start, was not well. Matt, this is exciting. I want to just reference something. You said it earlier, Braden Curry, excited and laid back. That seems to be the vibe. Yeah. You're excited and laid back. How do you manage all that excitement and laid back? Who've you got?
I manage that just by listening to you and your soft notes. We got Rach McBride ready to go for their race today. Always has a great smile on their face. We have Matt Hansen here. He was one of the first in transition. I want to say Patrick Nilsson, I think, beat him here, but Matt's focused, very calm. I asked him if he needed anything, if there's any assistance at all, and he was fine. He's good. He's very, very calm, and I think he's one that's excited that the wind is light. I know he's had a little bit of struggle in Kona with those tough windy conditions, and that's an athlete. I tell you what, with this wetsuit swim, like, he's an athlete that's going to benefit from a wetsuit swim. He's an athlete that because he can run a 2:35 or 2:34. People don't think he's a fantastic cyclist, but that guy could get to the front group like that if it's a 2 or 3 minute gap. So he looks good and absolutely ready to go. We had Arnaud Guillot behind me here getting ready, but guys, the excitement stirring. Sebi Kinley, super calm. He's definitely playing. He wants to play the old veteran card here today, guys, and he's not stressed. He's gonna let the young guys take over, and they can be the ones that stress out and try to take the race by the horns. He's the one that wants to kind of play sweep, last half of the marathon. But I'll tell you what, guys, I am so excited, and we're going to throw it back up to you guys, and I'm going to get on a boat with Lauren and get that action for you on the swim course.
Thank you so much, Matt. Great to see you. Great to have your commentary as always. We'll see you later in the show. Folks, we have a dynamic team. Of course, Greg Welch on the ground giving us great content, interviews, and look-ins. And we've also got Matt Lieto, who does such a great job. To have Lauren there, who's not, she's usually in the mix. So she's very much competing. She's not on the sidelines often. It's going to be cool, though, because she is an expert in that discipline to be certain.
Well, and I think it's also of benefit to Lauren. I think it's always disappointing when we miss an opportunity to race a world championship event, but I think you learn by watching. We see a lot of pros who are thinking of moving up to the distance or thinking of tackling their first world championship event, and they will come out and spectate because you learn a lot by watching. So I think it's going to be a good day for Lauren, both to provide her insights, but also to learn a little bit for her future races as well.
And 2 weeks ago, she grabbed that Kona slot, so she's going to World Championships later this year. So a lot of folks will be trying to do that as well, come back and get another go at this this distance and this level of competition. So more people than Daniela Ryf running around transition. I have to say, even though Matt's seen this before, I don't typically see that. I don't typically see people, A, for an Ironman wanting more steps, but B, running in transition.
Well, I take it out of transition, but the athletes here have quite a bit of room. It's a great setup we have here at the venue out at Sand Hollow. So lots of room for our athletes to get their warm-ups in and stay in a nice enclosed area. And yeah, so they're getting it done right there in transition. We see the wind starting to pick up just a little bit as we take a look at our American flag there blowing in the breeze. We talk about the difficulty of this course and how the conditions are going to amplify that pretty considerably.
Absolutely. This is I think what it gets people excited is they said, okay, we're going to get the chance to have high-level competition, best in the world at this event, and be challenged by the conditions, heat, no humidity, but wind. So we always talk about how Kona whips people up with that wind and that heat, and we're going to have the same thing here. I'm excited. I'm excited it's not cold because it can be cold in May.
Yeah, well, I think that our athletes are excited. We heard a lot of the pros mention they're really excited to have a world championship in a new venue. I think we talk about Kona and the history of Kona, hugely significant to our sport, but I think there's a lot of opportunity here, as Matt commented, for athletes who might not be as strong swimmers that now have an opportunity to swim in a wetsuit and mitigate some of those swim gaps. Going to change the dynamics out on the course. I think when this venue was announced as a world championship venue, I think a lot of the pros almost universally said, this is amazing.
100% agree with you there as we watch more warm-ups and we get ourselves closer and closer to our 6:15 start time, about 30 minutes out now, and some exciting stuff as we get into the mood down here. I know you guys are in for a treat when you get to see some true flavor of the Southwest of United States and the Southwest of Utah. Amazing spot.
I'd like to start off right now and share a prayer song, also called an honoring way, an honoring song. I'd like to honor these waters and honor Mother Earth, these mountains, as I'd like to acknowledge the ancestral land that we stand upon. This is the ancestral land of the Paiute, of the Shoshone, also of the Dene, the Navajo, of the Ute people. We say ahia. We say thank you to our ancestors. And like to honor all of you here today as we honor our warriors. We honor our relatives. We say thank you for this beautiful gift that we're given. This gift of life, the rising of the sun, coming over high up into the highest part of the sky, setting to the west. The singing lights coming out, Grandmother Moon coming out, blessing us with that light of wisdom. All of life moves in this beautiful cycle, and we're here about to witness that beauty of life, that beauty way. And so this is an honoring song, honoring everybody here today in a beautiful way. This song was passed to me by my good friend Tatanka Ihumble, Buffalo Dreamer from the Northern Cheyenne Nation, an honoring way.
Wonderful native
Thank you,
blessing
Tony
from
Duncan
Tony
with
Duncan. And it's, to me, that really brings you into, again, this part of the world. There is so much history here and so much honoring going on. I love the words. I love the moment that it brings us to, Didi. So great start here.
Absolutely gave me goosebumps there. Again, you talk about this great new venue for a World Championship event and seeing a bit of the culture as well. I think ties it all together, how lucky we are to be here in St. George, Utah.
And these athletes are getting closer and closer to start time. We can see the back of Tyler Butterfield there from Bermuda by way of Boulder, Colorado. We've got Sebastian Kienle again swinging his arm here. All the athletes, as they start to really try and warm up, this is I kind of used to like make a joke that it's just trying to burn off that nervous energy. But the reality is cold water, and you don't always warm up, so to speak, in the water. So you will get some strokes, but isn't this valuable just to loosen up and warm up on land?
Well, and absolutely, given the conditions on the day, some of these athletes might opt not to do an in-water warm-up. If you're going to get in that water, you're getting out, and it's not cold there. It's in the 70s already here this morning, but the air is so dry that they could carry that chill to the start of the race. So a lot of them doing extra warm-ups here on land, maybe opting for either a shorter or no swim warm-up at all.
There you go. Quite a team we have on hand today. We've got people from around the world. Of course, Mike Riley, the voice of Ironman. Paul Kay is on. Joanna Murphy, an announcer crew to be envied. That is our on-site crew. Tom Zebard, how could I even forget? You're looking at Andrew Messick there, also the CEO of the Ironman group. Amazing stuff. I think that what it comes down to is everybody is so excited to be back at Ironman World Championship. It's just been far too long. You guys say 900 days. I say 30 months. It both sounds like a whole lot of days, right? And so we're here. We're going to get to celebrate a new champion. We missed one. We missed 2020. So this 2021 champion we crowned today, going to be very proud of the effort. And can I address this, Didi? People that say, hey, so-and-so didn't start, guess what? You beat them. Yeah. Because they got injured, sick, or chose not to come, and no fault. They have to push limits, but I would say that when you say, well, so-and-so didn't show up, that's because so-and-so
didn't get the job done.
And that doesn't slight that person. He or she did their best, but I think we talk about this, right, Didi? Getting to the start line, more than half the battle, and then getting there healthy and ready to perform. Okay, so those things don't always happen.
Yeah, rule number one, Ironman racing, get to the start line. And be it, healthy, free of injury from training, free of illness. Again, travel has gotten so much more complicated in these past years. And so a lot of these athletes traveling great distance. And then you talk about bringing athletes in from around the world. Little bugs flying around, and people's immune systems may be compromised. We've been sitting in our homes on our own for so long. So again, no small feat, just getting to the start line.
That's right, Didi. And wouldn't it be also just worth mentioning that these athletes know now that they have to push more than they ever have. We've always seen them push, but now pushing so incredibly hard to be at the front of this race, it does take a toll. These athletes, well prepared, some of them not on the start line, but an incredible cast of characters hitting the shores of San Juan in just a few minutes.
The pursuit of excellence may look different for everyone, but the demands are the same. Dedication, hard work, and striving for greater health. It's something we understand at Intermountain Healthcare because we share your commitment to it.
Not so much as a representative of the people of Hawaii, but I come as a member of this community just like you, to be enthralled at the history that is being made today. And just as I do in Kona, I am so privileged and happy to do here with all of you, to be able to share a Hawaiian blessing. And this was given to us by late kupuna Auntie Emma DeFries. She is a well-respected elder in the Kona area. And she created this pule, this song. And the very same thing that Tony spoke about the Great Spirit and the people of this land talk about, we understand that in Kona, in the Hawaiian Islands. And all we do as indigenous native people is just we release it into the atmosphere. And that which will be done with it will be done. It will be accomplished. Aloha mai o ke akua nui o kalani, a ke anui a mamau, oi ano na lani, mahalo ia oi i ke iala, mahalo ia oi ka aina yuta nei, mahalo ia oi ka poe o yuta nei. Me ka aina a pauloa o yuta nei. Ia oi ka mana nui o ka lani ki nei. Ia oi ka manandui I luna, I lalo honua nei. Mahalono, mahalono, aloha no. O nani ka makua mau ke me ka wanendo, ke akua mau o mai ka ipu, ko ke ialao, ko ke lao e. Wanoa, it is blessed.
Thank you, Kahu Ke Aloha. A professional athlete should be into the around system.
As always, Kahu Ke Aloha, taking us out, getting us into the mood, and again, a beautiful sound of a native culture shared across the world, all the way from the Pacific Islands. Beautiful stuff. And so it really does, to me, that and the conch, that, and of course the Native American flute, like really, truly, I'm in the mood. I'm ready.
You're ready now. You needed the conch.
We can start.
Yeah, the conch made it official. Again, I love the cultural aspects and bringing the culture of the venue where we are now, but obviously a nod to our roots from the big island of Hawaii. Always very important and very special for all of our athletes this morning as we get ready, Michael, to get underway.
Think about this as well, Didi. One of the cool things is someone today, two people are going to earn a crown that is going to stay with them for the rest of their life. And I bring this up because I think about Dave, Scott, Mark Allen, Paula Newby-Fraser, Greg Welch, all of these athletes that are here working this event, being a part of this event, having won the Ironman World Championship. There's more. I only threw out those names because those are some of our legends, our founders of the sport. But Didi, a big day today for two people, a big day for everyone. But let's just talk about those two that are going to come away with a crown that will last a lifetime.
Will they be rookies? Will they be veterans? We just don't know. But that's why we're here.
You've got 5 minutes and women for the warm-up. 5 minutes and then out. You have to come back out of the water and warming up.
The pursuit of excellence may look different for everyone, but the demands are the same. Dedication, hard work, and striving for greater health. It's something we understand at Intermountain Healthcare because we share your commitment to it.
Come on back. I'll be calling you back. Your Intermountain Healthcare 2021 Ironman and World Championship, presented by the Utah Sports Commission, exactly 6 a.m.
And look at that.
Oh my gosh. Come on. It is Daniela Ryf that is blowing this field up.
The fight is not over.
Here comes the red carpet.
Women's podium locked and loaded.
Exciting end of the day racing.
They're both not giving up. Heats it up at the finish line here.
Here comes your men's champion.
Welcome to the Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission. We are in St. George, Utah, USA. It has been a long time coming, but we are back to Ironman World Championship racing, and we couldn't have picked a better venue or a better cast of characters. I'm Michael Lovato, and I'm happy to be joined in studio by Dee Dee Griesbauer. Dee Dee, this is going to be epic today, and I'm not throwing that term around lightly.
No, absolutely not. Epic is the word. It's the same race. It's the same world championship. It is a brand new venue that is going to throw everything. It's going to throw the cats and the dogs at the athletes all at once. We've got a super challenging course and conditions that could make this even more brutal, but we have athletes who are up to the task, Michael. We will crown world champions by the end of the day today.
For the first time, as we say, in 30 months or 900 days, we are at Ironman World Championship racing at its best. St. George, Utah, the desert southwest of the United States. Here's why we mention that: very different conditions. Folks are going to come here. It's not high elevation, not high altitude, but it is an arid climate, dry, hot, windy. But the special sauce is a cold water swim. We mix things up completely, and I really do believe, without being dramatic, this course serves up a different race dynamic, which will in turn serve up a different champion.
Well, as we've said, the pros really looking forward to this new race venue, going to present opportunities for athletes that maybe don't do well in the humidity, athletes that maybe swim a little weaker than the front pack. Being in those wetsuits is going to help them. This is going to change the entire dynamic. You know, we show up in Kona, we know the dynamic, we know the players who typically race well there, and players who maybe tend to struggle, but we can throw all of that out, Michael, because everything is new here. Everything is different, and I think it's going to be an exciting race for athletes we may not have spoken about very much in past World Championship events. Not to mention, we have a whole cast of rookies here racing in our professional field as well, names that weren't even racing Ironman when we last had a World Championship event back in 2019.
That's right. 2010 was when the world first discovered this town, and we had an Ironman here. But again, this is a brand new version, and therefore, let's have a look. As you come in here to Sand Hollow State Park, we're going to get a look at this Roca swim course, of course, 2.4 miles before you transition to the full gas bike course of 112 miles. And because we're in the USA, I'm staying with these miles versus kilometers. We can convert later, but this course absolutely tests and challenges the athletes, Dee Dee.
That's right, 112 miles with 7,374 feet of elevation gain. The views are epic. Racers leave Sand Hollow, do a quick out and back in Washington, then head towards St. George for the first loop. They climb Old Highway 91 towards Gunlock, where they do the Veo Loop. This is a long 40K climb. They descend back into town before another climb up Snow Canyon.
And then you get to the Hoka Run course, 26.2 miles or 42 kilometers. This course brings out the best of everyone. Hilly, turns, twists, up, down, not a segment of flat road. Falls flat, perhaps, but when you get through those 26.2 miles, you're going to be glad to get to downtown St. George and the finish line. And of course, Mike Riley calling you an Ironman. This course is going to challenge, and we haven't even dipped in yet, to the wind, the heat, all of the elements that come here that are completely out of our control.
Absolutely, and the athletes, many of them been out there because this is a World Championship event. A lot of the athletes arriving to St. George, Utah extra early to get a sense of the course, to get to study this course, to get to train in the conditions, and boy, did the conditions turn up during race week. They had some super windy days where even some of the strongest cyclists were gritting their teeth a little bit saying, wow, this is definitely next level.
Right now, 53 degrees, 12 Celsius, but coming up later in the day to 32 or 33 Celsius and a high of 90 degrees Fahrenheit. This is what is deceiving, that humidity level so low, 15%. We'll talk about that a lot throughout the day because you're still sweating immensely, but you just may not know it. And Didi, what about the water temperature? I know we're going to get in and see this later, but when you're talking about 17.5 degrees Celsius or 64 degrees Fahrenheit, that water, it changes the game, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. But I think a lot of the athletes counting their blessings this morning because just a week ago, that water temperature was 60 degrees. Let's take a look at some of our notables in our professional men's field.
Of course, Keenley, a 2014 Ironman world champ. Ben Hoffman, 8-time USA Ironman winner. Christian Blumenfeld, Ironman winner, but gold medalist in the Olympics. Say no more. Jan van Berkel from Switzerland, an incredible competitor. Daniel Bakegaard, the 25-year-old Dane. Lionel Sanders has won 23 Ironman 70.3s. He's winning a title, a world title today. Sam Long from the USA, a youngster that is ready to tangle with the best. Christian Hogenhaug, watch out for this Dane. Cameron Wurf, 5th in the last Ironman World Championships, and a pro cyclist in his spare time. But what about this? From Great Britain, from Scotland, David McNamee. This man, twice third place in Kona. He can really roll across all disciplines. Didi, what a men's field. And that's only 10 of them. Wait till he gets the other 10 that I think could win it.
Yeah, and let's take a look at some of our women. Of course, we have our defending Ironman world champion, Anne Haug, out of Germany. She will be challenged by Daniela Ryf. Again, Daniela's had a quiet couple of years, hasn't performed the way this 4-time Ironman world champion has in the past. Will this be her day? We've got the American Heather Jackson. She's been on the podium in Kona, but she is really excited for this super challenging course. Sky Mont, one of our rookies we talked about, Ironman world champion rookies, makes her home just north of here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Kat Matthews, a lot of buzz around this athlete. She's a rookie here to the world championship. The anti-rookie, Lindsay Corbin, her 14th Ironman World Championship appearance here, and a host of others. It's going to be a great, great competition.
I tell you what, you've seen some of the players, and I do say some. You can look, the sun not even up yet, as local time is 6:07 in Utah. We're looking at the athletes queuing up under that Roca swim arch. They'll enter Sand Hollow. And we're going to have, of course, a nice peek at that exact course that they do. You're thinking, how hard is it to swim 1.2 miles or 1.9 kilometers of this Roca swim? Well, it can be pretty hard. I tell you what, my arms are tired and my calves are cramping just thinking about it, Didi. We're going to go right in to this swim and see. Did I say 1.2?
Yeah,
did
you're only doing half
Did I
swim.
shorten?
You're going to get disqualified for that.
Time out. Is this an Ironman?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's correct that. It might be something that I should pay better attention to. 2.4 miles or 3.8 kilometers. Let's be a little bit more accurate here in Sand Hollow Reservoir. Folks, I'd still be cramping, though. Let's have a look from the back. What a good shot of these athletes, the men, queued up in wetsuits. Never before have we seen wetsuits in a world championship for Ironman. But let's have a look at this Roca swim right away, see exactly how far it is.
We're here at the practice swim for the Roca swim course for the 2021 Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission. If you wanted the perfect swim venue for World Championship, this is it. Absolutely beautiful down here at Sand Hollow Reservoir. For the swim course on race day, the athletes are going to head out a long straightaway, take a right-hand turn, and then a very long stretch behind Sand Hollow Island out here, and then another right-hand turn, a little short distance, and then another right to like all the way back, and are going to take a left-hand turn back into transition. I'll tell you what, the wind is coming up. It's not too bad today, but it can be a little choppy out there for this swim, so the athletes need to be ready for that. And I'll tell you what, you can tell I'm in my Roca wetsuit because it's a little bit chilly. You might want to double cap it if you can, but it's going to be a great swim out there. Let's check it out. Well, I'll tell you what, that's no Kailua Bay. a little bit colder than we're used to in Kona, but it's going to be a sweet swim venue for sure. But honestly, it's going to be a little bit different. Having a wetsuit on is going to change the dynamics of both the men's and women's races. Going to keep maybe those slower swimmers a little bit closer to the front of the race, but I'll tell you what, it's definitely going to mix things up, and it's a great start to these World Championships.
And that is exactly how 2.4 miles of swimming looks in the Sand Hollow Reservoir. We're here. Some great stuff as you take a peek at that beautiful water. Sun's starting to come up, and I tell you what, this is going to be absolutely on from the first strokes. And here's another thing. All those people that benefit from the wetsuit, they're going to have a little bit more confidence. All those people that hate wetsuits and really don't want to be, they prefer to be in the challenging open water of an ocean, they're going to be trying to still make that gap. Didi, I think the pace is going to be absolutely torrid, and probably with so few turns, we're going to see this thing sort of bunch up and then string right out, aren't we?
We will, and we'll see likely names at the front of this swim, names we're familiar with at the front of the swim. I anticipate we will see Max Newman at the front of the swim for the men. Daniel Baekkegard definitely be in that front pack for the men, and we'll look for Christian Blumenfeld. On the women's side, I really think it might be Haley Chura all on her own.
You know what? I was going to ask Lauren Brandon that very question. We never got back to her. I was going to say, who's going to be first out of the water, and then put her on the spot for who's going to win. But it doesn't matter now. We'll get her possibly later. Haley Chura has obviously done that. She's swum with, first out of the water a million times, but she's swum with Lauren Brandon. She's swum with Lucy Charles. She's been at the front. Don't you like how I just said Lucy Charles' name for the first time? Nobody else mentioned it. They're all kind of like, she. But that's my point. If she's not here, right, you beat her.
Exactly.
And fair's fair. So we can bring it up. We can say we are excited to see her back.
Yep.
And we wish she hadn't gotten hurt.
Yep.
But we also understand that's part of the game.
Absolutely. A lot of athletes not able to start here, but it's not about them. It's about our athletes who are lined up here getting ready to get underway here at our World Championship event here in St. George, Utah. Let's go down to our national anthem.
At the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets back there, the balls bursting in air, gay proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
A beautiful tribute from a beautiful group, Island Breeze, out of Kona, Hawaii, the Big Island. And she did such a fantastic job. Really, nothing kicks it off like the national anthem, Didi, for us here in the USA. Look at those men like a bunch of caged animals about to go down that boat ramp and into those brisk waters. I'm not even going to say cold because now we're 64 degrees or 17.5 Celsius. Didi, it's outright balmy for Sand Hollow. We've seen it under 60 before. So these athletes can hit that water. I think it's going to keep them, relatively cool, relatively comfortable. You're not going to overheat in a wetsuit. I think it's great.
They're not going to overheat, but I still think entering that water, diving in, running into the water, it's going to take the breath away. And I think that's something the athletes hopefully will have practiced during the week, that shock of hitting the water for the first time, because at 64 degrees, yes, it's warmer than it was, but that's still pretty chilly water. And we are just about 50 seconds away from the start of our professional men's race. We've got our professional men lined up there on the start line, ready to go. The nerves now peaking.
Keep an eye on Sebastian Kienle, bib number 2. We don't have Gustav Eden, but Ben Hoffman, Christian Blumenfeld, Braden Curry, Bart Arnouts, Chris Leiferman, Jan van Berkel, Michael Weiss from Austria, Andy Potts, Daniel Bakegaard, Lionel, the Lion Sanders also is here, Sam Long, Florian Angerer, Christian Hogenhead, Matt Hansen, Denny Chevra. I wasn't going to call them all out, but those are some people that realistically could be top 10, 10 seconds away. And this, my friends, is going to be, as we said, a barn burner from the start. What are you watching? It's the 2021 Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission. And we are off and running, Didi. The cannon fires, and these men are dolphin diving into the water right away, trying to get away and stay away, but everybody bunched together. A sea of humanity.
Not much dolphin diving there. It was a couple of steps and it was on. We did see one professional athlete there hang back a little bit, take a look around and say, which feet do I want to get on? We're going to be looking for the likes of Daniel Bakegaard. We're going to be looking for the likes of Max Newman and potentially Christian Blumenfeld to take to the front of this professional men's race in the early going here in the swim leg. But as we've talked about all morning, wetsuits changing the dynamic pretty considerably. Let's talk about that. Why is a wetsuit better for a relatively weaker swimmer and not quite as good for a stronger swimmer, Michael?
I like how you looked at me when you said weaker swimmer.
No.
Here's the story. I'm going to say this before we dive into that question. I haven't even mentioned Patrick Nielsen. Yes. And this is a shame because he's so far down the numbers. But if this man performs, bib number 43, if he performs to the standard that he's capable of, multiple sub-8-hour finisher, a guy that has said in this swim, he's sort of upset that he doesn't have Jan Frodeno to pull him away. He wants to get away and really light it up and stay away from the Norwegian. Now we have one. But let's do this, Didi. Let's talk about that wetsuit.
Well, let's talk about the wetsuit. First, what I want to talk about as we see these caps, all of our professional men in neon green, but we have a panic attack here. Like I said, that cold water is going to be shocking. The adrenaline kicks in. We saw a swimmer bob up and down there, take a couple of breaths, gather his thoughts, get his breath back, and carry on. Again, that cold water, a little bit of a shock to the system. We have some color-coded caps I want to talk about, some of our race favorites. If you see a violet cap there, that will be the head of Sebastian Kienle. We've got Ben Hoffman in dark blue. Christian Blumenfeld is wearing dark green. We've got both Braden Curry and Bart Arnault wearing pearly silver, and Chris Leiferman in gold. There is a silver cap there. Would that be Braden Curry?
Just the fact that you got to say the word pearly this early in the show. Here's what we saw when you had that overhead shot. A diamond formed immediately. What does that mean? One person at the front of the swim with flanks on either side, but madness. You see swimmers trying to get onto the right line, trying to stay out of the feet and get around this first turn, and then Didi straight out.
We had a swimmer there in the back. He's on the left of your screen right now. Had to stop and adjust his goggles. Folks, this happens to the professionals too. So if you're out there thinking, oh my gosh, I feel like such a rookie, my goggles fell off at the start of the swim. No, it happens to the pros too. You make the adjustment, you carry on. Our pros underway here are women just over 2 minutes to their swim start.
So when you look at this and you mention that wetsuit, I think what it does, again, is it enables, it gives a great deal of buoyancy. Those that are new to the sport, tuning in and trying to kind of get themselves up to speed may not understand this, but body position or how your body sits in the water, that's what changes. We do know Matt Lieto is on the boat. Can't wait to hear what he's seeing down there on the water. Matt, take it away.
Thanks so much, guys. As you said, you did notice there's some athletes struggling a little bit with the cold. An athlete right now in the back doing some breaststroke. It might have been Peter Hemrick. I don't want to commit to that. We do have, we see Hoffman here right on the edge. He's hanging on. He's going to move himself to the middle of this group. But, guys, it hasn't split up yet. The whole group is together. We do say, as you guys said, you had Braden Curry up front, Bakegaard, and some other athletes still staying tight. We see Lionel Sanders there still in the group. A lot of athletes are doing some breaststroke. I think they're having a hard time getting their head underwater. We have two athletes way back. We have Christian right here as well. Christian Blumenfeld having a decent swim, but pretty far back. And it is starting to split. It is starting to split about 8 back, but guys, I will say we were nervous about the swim conditions. It is still quite cold, but it is very calm, and those faster swimmers are going to be able to separate. And you can see right now, we do have separation. So we do have Hoffman has been separated. We have that dark green cap. You guys will have idea of who that is when we get back to the studio. But right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 athletes in the front group. And this athlete here trying to bridge across to the front group. Back to you guys in the studio, but things are hotting up in this men's swim.
Things are hotting up. Thanks there, Matt. That dark green cap would be Christian Blumenfeld, and I believe that is Braden Curry in the silver cap at the front. As we take a look at our professional women getting underway. Our women, we have some color-coded caps to talk about as well. Just 15 seconds to the start, so I'm going to wait until after we get our women underway before we go down that lineup. As we look at our pro men's leader, we will take it back to the professional women who are underway in 3, 2, 1.
And just like that, the women have taken to the waters of Sand Hollow Reservoir and the Roca Swim Course 2.4 miles of brisk swimming before they tackle the rest of this Ironman World Championship. Guess what? This, my friends, is what you've been waiting for now 30 months. It is the Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission. Didi, St. George, Utah has turned it on. We've got calm, pretty conditions on the water. I can say that from my seat here. And then we're going to face some heat and some wind. What do you think about this swim so far?
So far, I'm going to guess that's Haley Chura. I'm going to expect we're going to see Fenella Langridge try to stay with her. The likes of Lisa Norden, also a very strong swimmer we could see at the front. But Haley Chura may very well break this pack and end up on her own. We do have some color-coded caps in our women to talk about. Our defending world champion, Anna Haug, in neon red. Daniela Ryf is wearing a violet cap. Heather Jackson in dark green. Skye Munch in dark green, the two Americans. We've got Kat Matthews and Lindsay Corbin in pearly silver, and the Dane, Maja Sage Nielsen, and the Spaniard, Gurutsu Frades, both wearing gold caps. So if you see some of those, we wanted to keep an eye on some of those race notables throughout the swim leg. Our women now underway as well.
Okay, we've also got to bring up a couple names too. Recent winner of Ironman Texas, Jocelyn McCauley from the USA. She's in there. We've got Nikki Bartlett. Watch out for the Ironman winner here who has come across to really do some damage as Didi. What a beautiful shot. I just had to take a pause here. Look at that red rock and that blue water. Amazing St. George
What I'm
footage.
noticing here is we thought there was a break. It looks like it's come back together a little bit. Those athletes that were at the back of that pack or the front that were threatening getting, again, the camera angle can be deceiving, but it looks like this has yet to break, and that is a large group at the front of this professional men's swim.
And that's Braden Curry there
Yes.
at the front. Braden Curry leading out, the 4-time Ironman champion himself. He's won down in New Zealand. He's also won at Ironman 70.3. Matt, I have to hear from you. So if you're close, I'm going to jump down to your zone and hear from you what you see up there on the water.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. And you guys called it right when I was trying to chime in and tell you that there's an athlete, and I'm sorry, guys. As you know, it's hard to see these numbers at times, but we have Christian Blumenfeld right here. The athlete in front of him just absolutely saved Christian's swim. Pulled him up, closed that 10-meter gap, and now this group is all together, and now we can see it's 5 athletes behind Christian now. It's starting to split up, and we have athletes, I believe Ben Hoffman is now separated in that group. Keenly is in the back of that group, but that's mostly a full group together with Keenly off behind. But again, now it's 14, 15 athletes in the front. It looks a lot more secure, obviously, than it did before when Christian was getting moved back. But now Christian has moved past the athlete that bridged and is trying to get more comfortable in that group. You can see they're starting to spread out a little bit. It was actually pre-race someone we ignored, and we often do at World Championship. David McNamee is the athlete that bridged that gap up to that front group. So he wants to be there as well. One of the best runners in the sport. Thanks for that info from our swim expert, Lauren Brandon. But guys, it's mostly back together. Again, a little separation of that second group, but things are pretty tight in the men's race still.
Ask you this, everybody wants to know this, and myself included. Where is Sanders? Where is Long? Where is Leiferman? Where is Keenley? You said Keenley, but where are those other 3 powerhouses we're missing?
Keenley is in the back of this chase group. I do think Sanders is in this chase group. We're going to fall back and then find the women's lead, and we will get you that information when we're back to the women's lead.
Super duper. I'm glad you're looking out for it. Exciting stuff as always. Matt Lieto on the water with Lauren Brandon giving us that insight. Great stuff. And we're back here to our women's lead. Most likely, almost impossibly not, Haley Chura with Fenella Langridge, but we will get those numbers from our spotters, those two I just mentioned. There's a purple cap right there as well that you have plugging along. And again, we think that could be Daniela Ryf in the violet. So leading that second pack, that chase pack.
Yep, absolutely. Almost undoubtedly Haley Chura leading there. I would anticipate Fenella Langridge is one of those lead three. Could be Lisa Norden perhaps as well. And we will get Matt on the boat along with Lauren Brandon back to spot some of our women there. That is bib number 26. That is... yes, that is Joanna Reeder. No, that's not.
26, Haley Chura.
Haley Chura, sorry.
So great, yeah, no, it's great stuff. And remember here, folks, this is what we are relying on as well, and you will later throughout the day. The Ironman Tracker app, of course, we don't have splits in the water. We have seen that before, but what we're going to do is we're going to encourage everyone to get that app on their handheld mobile device and keep track of who's who, plug in those numbers and look at this. But definite separation here. So right now we got two women up the front, one in the middle, no man's land, and then a drop back again to that chase pack being led by the purple cap.
That is Lisa Norden. I just made out F12 there. That is Lisa Norden in third position. I'm guessing second position would be Fenella Langridge and, of course, our leader, Haley Chura.
Well done. And a beautiful overhead shot looking down from our helicopter, and I'm excited to tell you we have amazing cameras throughout the desert Southwest today, and we're going to get quite a good view throughout this race. But that's right. There's some texture on the water.
I was just saying some of these drone shots, we're starting to see the texture on the water there. That tells me the wind is starting to pick up. It looks calm from this camera angle, but when we go overhead, you do see some of the texture. So my guess is down in the water, this is not as smooth as it looks to us up here in the booth as a duck makes his way across the swim line there, breaking between the men's swim packs here.
That's right. And I tell you what, this is interesting. We call it flat, and then you talk to somebody and say, well, there's quite a bit of water. What happens, Dee Dee, just realistically, if you're in the water there and you get some water, you take it on board, you swallow it, does that play a role? I know in Kona it certainly can, but how about in this fresh water?
I think in the fresh water, it's probably less concerning. This is pristine, clean water, so it's still not desirable if it goes down the lung. Obviously, you're going to sputter a little bit with that, but certainly clean water. Here we have our men's race leader Daniel Backegard moving to the front of this pack. Braden Curry, I don't know if he's in front now or just behind, if Backegard is making his move away. Again, no surprises here. I would have anticipated Max Newman to be amongst our swim leaders. Haven't seen him yet, but Backegard getting it done early.
Remember, folks, this Roga swim course is one lap. You go 870 meters before your first turn, actual right angle turn, and then you've got another 1,185 meters, and you take another turn. Real quick segment there, 75 meters, and then a long stretch back, 780 before your final 760. I know most of you just heard a bunch of numbers. It didn't make any sense. The bottom line is some really long segments.
Yes.
So a lot of our courses where you have multiple turns or 2 laps, it does change. It's difficult to get around those turns.
Well, and here's something else to factor in is that we're now May. Typically, we have a World Championship event at the end of the season in October. A lot of these athletes have not had great access to open water swim venues at this point in the season. Open water swimming, dreadfully different than pool swimming. Yes, for most of us, we prepare for our races in a pool, but open water swimming is just different. So a lot of these athletes may not have done super long open water swims. Certainly race week, the water's been so cold, I doubt anybody got in there and swam a full 2.4 miles in the water this week. This swim can feel long is the point I'm getting to here, in that 2.4 miles is a long, long way to go when there's no flip turns, no walls. And yeah, I think that's going to play a role as well, just given the timing of this race being different than when we typically have a World Championship event.
There you go. Great commentary as always, Dee Dee, as we looked at Daniel Baekegard leading out, the one-time Ironman winner, 4-time 70.3 winner, and 25-year-old Dane. So great stuff. More great stuff that we are excited to bring you is the I want to just introduce him as the title sponsor of today's World Championship race, and this is Intermountain Healthcare, and the president of and CEO of Intermountain is Dr. Mark Harrison. Now, he's a longtime triathlete himself. He's raced every year, check this, for 41 consecutive years. Didi, that's your goal. And he's going to be racing Kona this October. Dr. Harrison, a pediatric critical care physician recognized internationally as a leader in healthcare transformation. And he is here live with us remotely, not in St. George, but excited to see you. Dr. Harrison, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and Intermountain is so pleased to be the title sponsor of this World Championship. And boy, is that venue gorgeous or what?
Oh, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me ask you this. Intermountain caregivers are here on the ground supporting these world-class athletes. And for the first time in history, it's all taking place in Intermountain's backyard. What does this World Championship event mean to you, being such an integral part of this event?
Well, thank you so much. Hey, look, we've got 60,000 caregivers across 7 Western states, and our mission is to help people live the healthiest lives possible. And I can't think of anything more appropriate for our team to be working on than the Ironman World Championship.
Well, that couldn't be any more true. What a great display of health and something to strive for. So thank you very much. Here's something that I know you're well aware of. The theme, Kumukahi, the Hawaiian word for a new beginning. It celebrates and welcomes athletes from all walks of life. Tell us just quickly what that theme inspires you, how that inspires you.
Well, look, I think the triathlon in general and Ironman specifically, every race is an exercise in renewal. And you get to explore yourself and you get to explore your limits. And personally, I'm sort of in the middle of a pretty big cancer battle. I've got an incurable blood cancer, currently in remission. And every time I go out and train, I feel renewed. And it's a pleasure to be aiming towards Kona, and it's even more of a pleasure to be supporting all these athletes today.
Well, thank you so much. What couldn't have asked for a better answer there, Dr. Mark Harrison. You inspire me. I just want to, before I say goodbye, I mean, battling that incurable cancer and going to Kona and racing 41 years consecutively. Can you just share with us how you draw on Ironman, not only to motivate, but what gets you out the door every day? This is fantastic.
So for me, every day I get to go and train. It's a celebration. It tells me I'm alive, and the structure and focus that Ironman has provided me and will provide me keeps me going on those tough days when I'm not feeling too well.
Brilliant. Well, absolutely appreciate you coming out here. Appreciate everything you and Intermountain do for our sport and for our community. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you and wish you all the best watching this great race today.
Great. See you in Kona.
Yeah, sounds great. Dr. Harrison is not the first time I spoke with him, but certainly one of the more impactful moments. He is living and breathing the epitome and the essence of this sport. Didi, let's do this. Let's talk about the women's race now. That's Haley Chur from the USA. She is out front of this Roka swim course, and we are not surprised. I guess maybe a tiny surprise there's not one person on her feet, but either way, she's doing what she does best.
You know, this is not surprising to me at all. We've seen that's rare air that Haley Chur is swimming in. There are few athletes in our sport. Lucy Charles-Barkley not racing here today. Lauren Brandon, who is on the boat, I believe, with our Matt Lieto. We're going to go down to him in just a minute. There are not many people that would swim with Haley Chur, so I am not surprised to see her on her own. We have the chase behind her, the likes of Lisa Norden and Fenella Langridge giving chase, but Haley Chur breaking away. And with that, we will go down to Matt Lieto, who's got an update from the boat. Matt is with Lauren Brandon. What are you guys seeing down there, Matt?
Thanks so much, Didi. Appreciate it. As you said, Haley Chur off the front. We're used to seeing Lauren off the front, but she's sitting here right with me. Lauren, who else did we notice? We had Langridge and Norden, and then tell us a bit about what we're seeing in this chase group.
Yeah, so after Fenella and Lisa, we have a little bit of a gap, and we have lots of big players here. We have Daniela Ryf, Jocelyn McCauley, Kat Matthews, Skye Monge, Ann Haug, and we think Rach McBride and Maya Stage Nelson. So really good group here that are putting in a big gap to the next women.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it, right? Like that gap, Lauren, is one that's gonna separate things tactically, where those athletes behind aren't probably gonna bridge up to these athletes early on the bike ride, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this gap is getting pretty big pretty quickly, so I think it's going to take a while for anybody in that third pack to catch up to these ladies. So you're looking at people like Heather Jackson. She's going to have to bridge up by herself to these strong cyclists, because this group is going to be a big powerhouse out on the bike.
They are, and we were talking earlier about someone that people have ignored to an extent. Yeah, we just quickly, Dee Dee, we want to mention that we had Daniela at the front of this group. She's the only one that's been pushing the pace, and everybody's hanging on. And Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, but this gap hasn't really increased over the last 200 or 300 meters.
Yeah, Daniela is swimming really well. I think Fenella and Lisa kind of got out a bit quicker, but she's going on strong. And like you said, she's the only one pulling everyone around, and she's setting a good pace.
Awesome. Dee Dee, do you have that question?
Who in that third chase group, Daniela's group, who are you surprised to see in there that is swimming out of their minds right now? Any names that are surprising to you in there?
Dee Dee wants to know if there's anybody in this group that you think is having an exceptional swim to be here.
That's a good question. You know, I think we saw Annie Haug at World Champs in Kona. She was only 5 minutes behind the leader. She had a great swim. So, you know, she's where we expected. And Daniela, Jocelyn, I expected all of them to be together. So I think one interesting thing is Kat Matthews. I know she had said she was swimming double what she used to in the past. So I think she's really been working on that swim, and it's showing today for her to be in this group.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Lauren. Okay, guys, we're going to throw it back up to you, and we are going to jam on up to the men's race to see if we can see any more developments, and then make sure we get back in time for T1.
Great stuff, as always, from Matt Lieto, and, of course, a treat to have the expertise of Lauren Brandon, recent Kona qualifier, by the way. So this is exciting. We're early into this race. We've got 16 minutes for the women under our belt, the men 21 minutes, and we are looking at probably another 20 minutes of racing to go in the water here. Beautiful, beautiful overhead shots of a gorgeous venue. You're going to get tired of hearing us talk about how beautiful this venue is, but I promise you, it is one of the best on the circuit. Absolutely stunning.
There's this beautiful moment in time when neither foot is touching the ground. We are free of gravity and weight, moving above the doubts, past limits. When we are light, transformed, and hopeful. And if we were to collect all these moments, join them together, well, this is when anything becomes possible. This is when we fly.
Throughout my career, people have doubted my ability, and I've had it even more so when I've come into triathlon. I think this year will be very different. There will be bigger expectations on me. I love the way that I race. With my swim background, I'm almost in the driving seat from the gun. I'm the person that everyone is chasing. I want to be the best, and I'm willing to work as hard as possible to get there.
And when we keep an eye on it, what we're going to do is we're going to say, is it the same kind of routine throughout, or is that something that about 30 minutes in, Dee Dee, we don't see that anymore? Because don't you settle? I mean, you hit it hard, and then you kind of get your spot, and then you have to at some point settle into what you can sustain, even for these racehorses up front.
Absolutely, but I think what we saw at the start of this particular event, because of the temperature of the water, I think it was shocking to a lot of athletes. It may have taken them a little bit longer to warm up and to find that groove. I think they're definitely settling in now.
So a great shot when you get down low on the water here, where you can really see that there is quite a bit of movement there, quite a bit of wind chop. It can be a lot worse. It can be a lot rougher out there, but I would certainly say this isn't a pancake flat, super smooth swim. As we come back to Haley Chura, she's She's won an Ironman. I'm sorry, that's 12. You said, no, that is Haley Chura good. So I'll try and keep an eye on those numbers and recognize them. But Haley Chura, so she won Ironman Brazil, and she's been really good at the 70.3.
Yes.
Has won 4 of those. You mentioned her bringing the run up a notch or two during the pandemic. I would say that she is a true dark horse, where we haven't mentioned her for a top 5, but there is every realistic opportunity that she has to get in that top 5.
Well, I tell you, one of the advantages that she has is this swim gap that she's establishing right now, because if the women behind her, particularly in that third chase group, if they're staring down a 5-minute deficit out of the water, who's going to overreact to that and say, whoa, that's more than I thought? Panic a little bit and go chase hard and almost ruin the rest of their day in chasing too hard from the start. So right now, Haley is at a great advantage with this gap that she's establishing. She's putting the onus on the other women to come and chase her once they get on the bike, and who's going to overbike to do that. We had a chance to sit down with Haley and talk about this particular swim venue, particularly the cold water. Here's what Haley had to say about swimming here at Sand Hollow.
Definitely less nervous about the swim and the cold temperature, because some of my best races have been in races with cold temperatures. I think maybe the coldest was the Ironman 70.3 in Bariloche in Argentina. I think that was like 58 degrees Fahrenheit, and we were all very nervous. And I just got in and I felt so good. And so I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely not nervous about the temperature on the swim. I am nervous about the other conditions, but one thing I just know is that hard conditions probably favor me. I think I train in some hard conditions. I train in some really, really windy days, and it's just where you feel like you're not making any forward progress, but you are. And so I think if conditions are hard, I'm pretty good at telling myself, okay, you might be going slow. Like your miles per hour might be slow, your minutes per mile on the run might be slower than you like, but I'm pretty good at knowing my perceived exertion. There's a benefit to being a little bit older in this sport, and I think that has come, with time. I've gotten that, and it helps me keep things in perspective and know that sometimes I'm doing a good job, even if it isn't the fastest day ever.
25 minutes of swimming underway for the men professionals, and 21 minutes now for the women. Haley Chura out front. We just heard it straight from her, we speculate all day long, then we get their words. Sometimes that completely contradicts us, but here's the story. You've been in this situation up front. Is it a good position to be? Does it feel, I mean, that's silly. You're leading the race. It's got to feel good. But is it hard? Do you shoulder a burden up there, Dee?
I think for an athlete like Haley and an athlete like Lauren Brandon, for example, who's so used to being at the front of the race, it's not unusual. I think where it gets hard, and I remember back to Ironman Lake Placid, I believe it was in 2018, Heather Jackson led the swim, right? And that's when you put athletes in situations they're not accustomed to, that's when it becomes uncomfortable. So I don't think for an athlete like Haley, it's going to be, she's completely at ease being there. It's a terrible spot to be in because there's only one place to go throughout the day when you're leading the race, right? If you're going to go anywhere, it's going to be down in terms of your place. But for an athlete like Haley, she's been here before, been there, done that. As she mentioned, she's one of our veterans. She's been around the sport for a while. She's got loads of experience, makes her home in Montana, trains in some tough conditions. So she's used to that and ready for it.
Coming back to the front of the men's race, Dee, we've got Daniel Bekkegaard. This man has, I'll say air quotes around this, he's only won one Ironman, so low on the tally there compared to some of his competitors, but he has dominated, won 4 Ironman 70.3s. He's 25 years old, a really fun personality as well. Anyone that hasn't clicked through the Fighting Chance videos, click through those, the ones we did this week. A lot of athletes highlighted. You get a real taste of what they're like, because I think we miss that sometimes when in the greater picture.
You talk about Daniel Bekkegaard, our men's leader right now. He had a really rough start in the sport. I mean, he was on an Olympic trajectory with his country, got cut from that program, really struggled to find his footing, had to sit down with his coach who suggested he move on to the 70.3 distance, had some rough races there, and it wasn't until we saw him take that win at Ironman, I believe Austria it was, that things really clicked into place for him, and we haven't seen him turn back. He has not looked back. In fact, he's looking forward. He's a name some people are talking about for the win, maybe a little early. He's a rookie at a world championship event. Ironman World Championship event. So maybe not his time yet, but definitely a name we're going to be seeing a lot of in the future.
He was fun to watch last year here in St. George when we had the Ironman 70.3 World Champs.
Yep.
And
just
so,
off the podium, as I recall.
And pretty good to come in and be able to experience this course at that distance. Different course, everybody mentions that, but important to note as we come in here on Fenella Langridge and Jocelyn McCauley. So we're looking at Jocelyn McCauley on the feet of Fenella Langridge.
That's Lisa Norden, I believe.
Lisa Norden, thank you very much. So here's what I see when you look at these two. Those heads are way up, bodies dropping a whole lot of sighting going on.
Well, I don't know if you noticed that when they went around that last buoy, Lisa Norden, I believe, saw the orange buoy on the other part of the course and wanted to turn that way. I think she got a little confused, saw Fenella continue on straight, gave it a once-over to see, are you going the right way, and is now staying on the feet.
Yeah, that's right. So keeping in mind that we are watching these superstars, Lisa Norden. It's kind of ironic that Matt mentioned this before, that we've got someone that in 2012 almost won the gold medal. She won the silver medal in the Olympics, and then she becomes kind of this dark horse. She's someone that I think, with her cycling ability as well, could really do some damage when they get out of this Roca swim course.
Yeah, I think if anyone's calling a doubt on Lisa, it's her lack of experience at this distance. She's only raced 2 Ironman events so far, and possibly her run across this distance isn't quite where people think it could be someday. So definitely going to be a contender. Perhaps not atop the podium, but we're going to see her throughout the day.
Wow, look at these fellas as they rip it through just at 30 minutes here on this one-lap Roca swim course. I like to mention one lap also something that I think is unique. It isn't a knock against a 2-lap course, but I certainly love seeing this. Wow, the men, the rolling start are underway. The age group men, rolling start fashion. We're getting groups of men going in there. Likability swimmers is the way we try and tackle this. Folks are seeing little bunches hit the water, different than the professional race, which was just one solid wave. And that's obviously because we have thousands of athletes hitting the water today, Didi.
We do, and some of these age group men looking like professionals. Some great swimmers getting to the water here in our age group race as we are well underway here on the Roca swim course. And with that, Michael, we would like to welcome what our next guest to the show. It's Kurt Spencer. He's the co-founder of Roca, joining us here this morning.
That's right, and there you go. And hey, great to have you out there. What a stunning swim course. And, you know, you guys have been, Roca has been a longtime swimwear partner of Ironman, and we've recently expanded the partnership to include official performance eyewear of the Global Ironman Triathlon Series. So, Kurt Spencer, you co-founded this amazing brand. And by the way, you swam at Stanford, and so did Didi. Probably she was right there with you. Anyway, welcome to the show, Kurt. It's great to see you.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning. Didi, go card. We're really excited to be out here this morning with you guys.
Kurt, tell me this. Swim conditions, obviously we've talked about the water temperature. Wetsuit mandatory. How does that impact the swim, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that you're ready for all conditions here and have the right gear. When the water's this cold, you obviously want to stay warm, but people wouldn't realize it, but you can overheat, you can sweat inside that wetsuit. So, you want to make sure that you're really acclimated to these conditions and have been in this kind of water before. It's a tough one out there today.
It is a tough one, and we've talked about this desert, conditions, a lot of sunlight, and recently Roca has become the official eyewear partner of Ironman. So tell us a little bit about what makes Roca glasses a good fit for Ironman athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. We started with a wetsuit. We built it out of our garage in Austin, Texas, and our mission was really to unlock human potential, and we're super excited to extend from the time these athletes enter the water in their Roca wetsuit all the way to the finish line now in their performance eyewear. It's an incredible journey. We always are learning from the athletes in this community. And eyewear for us originally started with an athlete, Jesse Thomas, great Ironman athlete. He used to race in gas station aviators, and we wanted to bring all the performance that you would expect in the Sport Performance Shield into every pair of glasses we made. And so we started with that iconic aviator style with Jesse, and now we've extended it across an entire line of eyewear, including prescription eyewear and other things. In our world, we believe that superheroes out there like these athletes today, you don't have to take your glasses off to do incredible things. So, we're trying to bring that level of design and innovation that we started with in the wetsuit now into eyewear and a global audience.
Well, Kurt, we're going to let you get back to the race, but I'm going to put you in the hot seat for just 1 second. We like to do this with all of our guests, and you can pick your Roka athletes. I'm fine with preferential treatment, but I'm going to ask you, who do you think is going to win today for our professional men and professional women? I won't ask you a podium. Who's going to be our champions today for men and women?
I think it's hard to bet against Christian Blumenfeld on the men's side. I would not bet against him. You know, there's a lot of great stories out there, though. I heard Lionel's in great form, but you know, if I had to call one, I'd call Christian. And then, you know, I'm hoping Daniela has a great race out there. She's had some injuries and tough things, and I'm also, you know, heartstrings are pulling for Lindsey Corbin to have a great race out there. She's in sort of last year of her career here, and has been an incredible athlete for us. So, watching her, hopefully she has a great race out there.
Superb. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to see you, Kurt. We appreciate what you do for us. And you enjoy spectating out there on the water, Sand Hollow. Thanks so much. And I'll say this, Dee. I mean, I'm no superhero. In fact, I could barely keep up with my son on the bike. But I do love the Rokas that I have that happened to land on my face the other day. They're amazing. Cover the entire face. So great stuff. We're going to rush on off to Matt Lieto on the boat. What have you got? Share it with us, Matt.
Yeah, thanks so much, Michael. We do see the men's group has split. We do see Laidlow, Backegard, Kyle Smith, I believe, with the cap off. And I'm sorry if we misidentify any of these athletes, but from what we can tell, those athletes are there. David McNamee in the back of this group. What we don't see, Braden Curry is still in this group. What we see is a very, very large gap, a significant gap to Christian Blumenfeld and the group that he is with. And we did see when we went by that there's now a further group behind them that contains Leiferman and Hoffman and some of those other favorites. We did, I believe, see Keenley was on the very back of that group the last time we saw him. I believe we saw Werf and Sanders in there as well, but cannot 100% confirm. You guys know how it is. But I will say the update is, it might not look so on camera, but it is choppy. There's wind, and it's definitely separating now that the gas is on these faster swimmers in this front group to this pretty large gap, which I'm going to call 100 meters to this chase group that has about 6 athletes in it. We did see that women's group seem to stay all together the last time we saw them with those 2 chasers and then Haley up front. We're going to head back unless you guys have any information you'd like to make sure we get to T1 when these athletes exit.
I was going to say, Matt, it didn't seem like we were gone from you that long that gap absolutely exploded in our men's race. Backegard's still on the front. Strategic error on his part to not let someone else take a turn, or you think he just wants to keep the gas pedal down?
No. He was one. He's very confident. He's one that he knew he had to kind of make this race for him if he wanted to take advantage. We see now 2 athletes getting separated off the back of Kyle Smith's feet. No, I think he pulled around. He felt maybe that Braden Curry wasn't pushing the pace enough, or Layla wasn't pushing the pace enough, and he went to the front. He said, I'm getting after it. He is one of these athletes. I have him picked as, we can't come with dark horse, but I think he's one of these athletes that wants to be at the front, and we know this race is going to be tough, but him or Patrick Nilsson, one of these guys is going to be able to, Hugenhag, who is in this group as well, go hard from the beginning, and one of them is probably going to stick on this podium, and I think Backegard is very, very confident in his chances.
I think you're right. Confidence comes right out of Daniel, and you see it in a good way. He believes in himself, and that's essential in this sport. So, Matt, great stuff. We're going to continue to dip in and get some insight from you. But what I'll say from my seat, that gap was massive. That was a lot bigger than I thought. He said it was a big gap, but really seeing that angle was sort of shocking. Looking over here, we can see exciting stuff as some of our men are getting caught up. That 5-minute gap. Haley Chura over there pushing through. She's the top of your screen. A couple of professional men it doesn't ever spell doom. I mean, I see what could be the bald head of Matt Russell, who this tells you, Dee, sometimes that cold water still feels warm. He doesn't mind having his cap off. Yep. So if it flew off, a lot of times these athletes do generate heat. Like we had Kurt say from Roka, you can sweat, you can get quite hot in there. So ultimately, I think the water temp, it's a very individual thing to be certain.
Whether it's on the road or in the pool, your activity has high demands. Rooted in sweat and grounded in science, we understand your unique fueling needs. That is why we created formulas just for you, endurance athletes, helping you replace what you're losing and keeping you fueled. And there's nowhere we'd rather be than with you along this journey, because together we are formulated for farther. From the creators of Gatorade, Gatorade Endurance, formulated for you, formulated for farther.
And that's one thing we do know, Didi, we are going to see a lot today. Some incredible coverage throughout the day, live action from St. George, Utah. And this, of course, is what we've all been waiting for, not to beleaguer the point, but for 2.5 years, a long time. So high-level competition, great international cast of characters, and you're looking at the men pushing their way through the water, led out by Daniel Bakegaard. I think how important is it to say that out of sight, out of mind is going to be a factor here. So if you get a group of 8 guys and they're gone from transition when Blumenfeld's group hits the water, does that play in, or are we just too much in our own game?
Well, something we heard almost every single professional say pre-race was that today's race is a game of patience. You have to be patient. You have to be patient. This course demands it. Extremely challenging, more than 7,000 feet of climbing on the bike, another 1,400 feet of climbing on the run. Temperatures topping out above 90 degrees. Winds could pick up to definitely play a role. All of the pros said they need to be patient, but that all seems to change when the gun goes off, right? You get into transition. Does someone say, oh gosh, that was... Does Christian Blumenfeld say, I'm in a position, again, we talked about athletes being in an uncomfortable position, right? Is Christian going to be a little bit on the back foot, seeing how far back he is in T1, and does that change his race strategy? We heard Lionel say pre-race, the thing he's most nervous about is having to make decisions in the heat of battle, and what are good decisions of when to push, when to be patient, et cetera, et cetera. So everyone said they need to be patient, but who actually has the courage to do it? And I think that's going to be a deciding factor today.
A little bit of courage, a little bit of discipline to be patient. And part of me also just has to call a little bit of BS on the patience. Like we used to say we wanted to be patient, we raced our own race. And I think it was a lot more valid back in the 90s and in the 2000s. But let's be honest, when you're doing a 4:04 bike split and your name is Christian Blumenfeld and it's your first Ironman, and then you're running and your first half marathon is 1:16, you're not being patient.
Well,
you're just giving what you've got when you've got it.
And that's the interesting thing is watching everyone's pre-race media and hearing everyone say they're going to be patient, they're going to be patient. Yes, to a certain extent, this course demands it, but I think the victory is going to go to the athlete that takes the chance out there, that takes the risk on such a challenging course and says, throws caution to the wind to a certain extent, takes calculated risks at the right moment, and comes away with a victory as a result. Some will take those chances and blow up and explode and end up on the side of the road, perhaps. But the ones that do it with the right time and the courage behind it, I think you've got to take those. This is a world championship event. You have to take those chances.
I agree 100%, and I can't wait to see those blow-ups because it's part of the fun for me sitting in this comfy chair. We have been a long time coming. We have not seen an event to this magnitude in 2.5 years. But today, folks, it is all about a new beginning coming back to racing. Let's take a look at what that means.
Kumakai definitely resonates well with me right now because I do feel like this is my first world championship where I'm an experienced, well-trained, properly trained, mentally strong, doing it for the right reasons now, athlete.
In 2019, the last World Championships, I was an absolute nobody in the sport. Nobody really knew who I was. I actually watched Kona from the sidelines, like as a young pro, and I just had a big dream of being there. And now it's basically my new beginning, right? I'm now here. I'm one of the pros. I'm one of the pros that's really competing here, and it feels like it's like the new beginning to the next stage of my pro triathlon career. So it couldn't be more aptly named for me.
Well, for me, being my first Ironman World Championship, being here, it's a new beginning in my World Championship racing.
This is a new beginning, with it being like my first World Champs as a pro, and kind of finally feeling that racing's kind of back on, and it's a bit more normal for me trying to race as a pro now. So I think those two things combined.
My little son Nino was born last year, 4th of July by the way, and the second name is Kaimi, also a Hawaiian name which means the seeker. And yeah, like I've already said, this is gonna be the last year where I race a world championship, and then yeah, the next year is gonna be the end of my career. So it's definitely a new beginning for me.
It also means that we have a new era coming. I think it's a new beginning for Ironman racing in general, and that's for the next 10-15 years. I think we have a pretty strong pack of young athletes coming up, and that's Kumukai to me.
Kumukai, that is it, and it is a new beginning. I tell you that much right now, Didi. It is a new beginning. I'm excited to be here in St. George, Utah, and watching these thoroughbreds take to it. When I think back to what we were just kind of closing out, Didi, just the patience. It's not to say I completely call BS on that, but I think what people say this all the time. Well, why are folks going so fast? Why so many sub 240s? Why so many low sub 8s and 730, 740 times? To me, yeah, the equipment and the training, but really it just becomes the barriers. As soon as they break, people start to see they can do it.
Yes.
And when you have that confidence, you understand that it may come at the cost of completely blowing up or dropping out or going 10 hours, but it may come at a great reward. And I think that there's just, people were always told you can only go this percentage of your max. And we believed it and we did it. And now it's like, no, you know what? Let's see if we can explore those limits.
Well,
That's what's
the
happening.
level of sport now demands that you do it. If you're not willing to take those chances and train yourself to be able to hold those paces, you're not gonna be successful in the sport. And I believe fully in the sentiment that once you see it done, well, if he can do it, so can I. And I think there is a lot of that. And we've seen those barriers broken. I mean, it wasn't that long ago to remember how jaw-dropping it was, how staggering when Mirinda Carfrae ran, was it 248 or 250 at the Ironman World Championship in Kona that year, and we're all like, that's never going to be touched again. Now, if you're not running sub 3 hours, you're not going to be close to the top of the sport. And it's just the standard gets set, and then people look at it and they study it and they say, how do I get there? And step by step, they do. And it's the level of racing and the depth of racing at the professional level is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, let's see. Mirinda Carfrae, 250 and maybe 26 seconds. I don't know. It was 250, pretty much 250 there. Flat, and she cranked it. But right now we are getting to the close of the Roka swim course. This is 2.4 miles or 3.8 kilometers of cool, cold water swimming, and these folks are getting ready to hit solid ground. If you don't have it already, please open up your Ironman tracker on your phone or your desktop, and you're going to be able to see these splits the same as we will, real live splits. Folks, we've got Daniel Bakegaard that you just saw on camera, 25 years young, stellar Ironman 70.3 athlete and a one-time winner at this distance. He's going to hit the water. Will he be first or will he get out sprinted? It's just a formality, but we're going to rush on down to transition 1, where Matt Lieto will call these athletes out of the water and into their bikes. Matt, what have you got? It's time for you.
Oh, you know, Michael, this is my favorite part of the day. I get pretty amped because there's a lot of action about to happen. Our last opportunity to see a very calm transition area, but it is about to get absolutely hectic. I will do my best to call out, but a lot can happen here, and we can see over a world championship. Here we go. Daniel Bakegaard here looks very, very comfortable. Athlete behind him grabbing his bag. Here, I believe this is Laidlaw. I could be incorrect here. Here we go. He's getting that wetsuit off. That is Laidlaw. He cannot get his wetsuit off. There we go. And that's Braden Curry. Kyle Smith is here. I believe that is first on with his helmet. Sorry, we had Hugenhog is trying to get his race kit on. Bakegaard in and out. Absolutely smoking fast. If Braden Curry can bridge up to him, this is good, but this group is separating in transition. Kyle Smith getting his equipment on quickly. Here we go. this athlete here, Florian Anger, able to get on, and it's going to be tight. There's going to be a lot of fast riding here early. Sam Laidlaw also putting socks on, having issues getting out of his wetsuit, now putting socks on. A lot of issues here. This cold is tough. This wetsuit swim is tough. To be able to get that suit back on, but Laidlaw's out. We do see a podium finisher here at a World Championships in the past. David McNamee, great swim for him. In touch with athletes here. And he can have a good shot as we have Max Newman as well getting out of his wetsuit with previous second place World Championship finisher Luke McKenzie watching on, trying to stay as calm as he can. But now we're getting ready, guys, for this second group. And again, look at, it's nice to notice here the skin suits. It's a part of a tactic, and it's hard. It's faster, but you have to stand still and get this thing on. He puts his wetsuit in his box there, gets the helmet out of the bag, and ready to go. But guys, this gap, it's kind of uncomfortably big. I mean, I think Backegaard has been able to get out of transition so quickly. And guys, when you see someone that determined, led the swim, pushed it up the run, pushed it through transition as quickly as he could. This is an athlete that's trying to get off the front of this group. Okay, now we're seeing the second group coming into transition now. We have Christian Blumenfeld first to his bag, first in transition. He looks good. He looks comfortable, very focused, gets his sunglasses on. Peter Hemmerich with a great swim for Peter Hemmerich. Andy Potts here, good swim for Andy. Puts his helmet on before he takes his wetsuit off. Haven't seen that one before, but Andy has the experience. He knows it's going to work. It looks like he's lost his visor, so he's trying to figure that out. There it is. He's going back, finding his visor. It fell out of his bag. But there we go, Christian Blumenfeld. And if I'm right, that is Peter Hemmerich, and that is an absolutely game-changing swim for him. If he can ride and run like he is capable from this position in this race, that is a great possibility of a podium finish. That guy is a strong athlete. That could upset the deck here, guys. Here we go, some more athletes. Our BMC athlete here, felt athlete here going out from behind. But guys, pretty quick, and again, a big gap. But for me, Christian looked great. He's very focused. He knows he has some work to do to try to get back to that front group. But I think you could tell, shocked at Peter Hemmerich's swim, and he is a phenomenal cyclist. If he is on, that is something.
Great stuff, Matt. And Peter Hemmerich, I couldn't agree more. The Belgian who surprised us all, that top 5 Ironman 70.3 world champ finish down in South Africa a couple years ago. A great and dynamic athlete. We're on the road here and looking down on Braden Curry, the 4-time Ironman winner out of New Zealand. He's the one that we talked about. Is he going to keep that gap, stay with Backegaard as they get to the roads? 2 minutes and 10 seconds, Didi, is the gap that this front group put on Christian Blumenfeld's group. So that's a notable amount.
Yeah, it is definitely a notable amount. The other thing I noticed, some errors in transition, I think due to the cold hands. We saw a dropped visor. We saw some difficulty getting out of a wetsuit. We saw some mistakes in transition. Again, only seconds, but seconds can make a big difference as these groups are forming as they make their way out onto the bike course here. Again, some athletes choosing to put the socks on. Again, we debate that all the time. With cold feet, probably a good idea. As we look back at our pro women's leader, Haley Churro, we look down the list at some of the athletes in chase for the men. Behind the group that include that impressive swim from Peter Hemmerich, we had Patrick Nielsen. Again, we talked about that. He is in a group that is 4:15 down. That includes Justin Metzler, Arnaud Guillot, and Ben Hoffman, and Matt Hansen in that group. Great swim for Matt Hansen, 4 minutes, 20 seconds down. So the group's starting to form as the men take to the bike.
Well, the bikes start, and now the next time we'll get to see where these athletes are. 9.2 miles, almost 15 kilometers into the race. But coming to you here and looking at this, we've got some athletes that I wouldn't say I'm surprised, and I'm pleased to see up front, and we're going to have to wait a little while to see how it plays out. But David McNamee from Great Britain and representing Scotland in particular, this young man, I don't know why he would even be considered a dark horse, but he's someone that you kind of just let him slip away on the radar. But twice he's been third place in Kona with a wicked run, and although he's Scottish, He does extremely well in the heat. He trains and lives in Spain. A guy that I would just keep an eye on all day long.
He didn't have a lot of buzz going into this race. I'll grant you that, which is crazy for someone who's been on the podium at the World Championship the number of times he has. But again, the fact that he is in the mix, very exciting indeed, and we'll see him throughout the day.
What an incredible shot there. And
Incredible.
I promised you that you're going to get tired of hearing me say how pretty it is here in St. George, Utah. But you're going to see it. I won't have to say it. That won't stop me from saying it, Didi. It is a beautiful part of the world here, arid, dry as can be, humidity levels below 15%. Heat is climbing up. Right now, when you're feeling low humidity and it's, say, 70 degrees, it feels kind of cool. It's pleasant on the bike. You're going to come out of that water. You're not going to heat up right away. But I mention this because the subtlety of the change and the rise in temperature is something you have to watch for. If you're an athlete, you have to wait for and see it happen, because before you know it, in this kind of climate, Didi, you can be an hour into the bike ride and realize you haven't had a sip of fluids. You didn't feel like you needed it. You didn't feel hot. You didn't feel like you were in the spot where you had to hydrate. But I tell you what, that is going to come back to nibble some people later on, I think.
It absolutely will, and I'm just taking a look at my Windy app here on my smartphone, taking a look at the wind conditions, and right now, still relatively calm, but on that climb, that first significant climb up to Veo, the winds are starting to pick up, so we do know that that will be a factor later in the day as we take it back to our women's race, and we look at the texture on this water. You can tell the wind is picking up. The water has gotten a little bit choppier as we've progressed through the swim. As we look at our women's leader, Haley Chura, no surprises here, leading our swim race here as she gets out of the water. Official swim time as she crosses that mat, just about 50.5 minutes there. We'll take it down to Matt, who is in transition with our women's field and the rest of our men's field coming through transition. Matt, what are you seeing?
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Sitting right here, we see Haley Chura's bike. We're going to make sure we get out of the way before she gets here, but she's ready to go, and here she is right now. Haley Chura in the lead in this race, tries to grab that grab, misses it. There's not much, nothing it looks like, but she grabs her back to be able to put equipment in. She looks composed. We know, we're not surprised to see Haley in front of this race. She was cutting her interview, say, you know, there's.
So, Didi, I tell you what, we're having just a little bit of breakup, and you know this is a remote part of the world. Sometimes those transmission signals get mixed up, but what he's saying, looking in on Haley Chura and getting a close eye here, she's got a massive gap. She is alone, and she's going to remain alone for a while. We're watching a pretty great transition, to be honest, pretty quick. A lot of folks losing the visors.
Another visor off the back again. We saw Haley miss her bag grab through the bag rack there, but she got it back again. The cold hands, the cold feet, going from the horizontal in the water to the vertical of running through transition, never easy, but she's made a good show of it, and she is out of transition before we even have a whiff of the next woman out of the water.
As we're talking about next out of the water, I want to make reference to something you're not looking at on camera, but here's the story. 4 minutes and 30 seconds out of the lead. That is a small margin for Chris Leiferman, Sebastian Kienle, Sam Long, Ty Butterfield, Lionel Sanders, and Cameron Worf, all within 8 seconds of one another out of the water. Bear with me when I say that again. Leiferman, Long, Sanders, and Worf, this is going to be gangbusters, because that crew is potentially the strongest bike run. I mean, we can't rule out Blumenfeld or anyone, but those guys are close.
Well, and that's the group that Sam Long pre-race said he wanted to be with. So that's a good swim for Cam Worf, because he was a little unsure of where his swim would be, but I think he's going to be pretty happy to be in that company. As we look at our second place female, that's Fenella Langridge. Again, another athlete that hasn't gotten a huge amount of buzz coming into this race, but I think an athlete with a huge amount of potential. Again, not a lot of Ironman racing under her belt. She's another one of our rookies as she tries to strip that wetsuit. Again, the hands are cold. It's so hard to get those hands to work. She's having a hard time getting that zipper down. Oh, Michael, it's so difficult to watch.
It is. This one not as painful as watching the BMC athlete do transition earlier. I didn't get his number, and I don't want to shame him, but it was the slowest transition I've ever seen. Coming back to it, you're right. This is tough. She's stuck. She needs to get that breakaway, and this is a painful moment. Sometimes you're in a suit that the zipper just gets caught right on on some neoprene, and so ultimately she could sure use a hand at this point. But of course, without a volunteer popping in, she's on her own, left to her own devices.
I think in this scenario, you want to go back up and then down. She keeps tugging it down, but I think you're right. She's got to get the zipper back on track. There she goes. She's got it. Lots of applause from the crowd, giving her a little cheer. Again, this is only going to cost her about 30 seconds, but when you're in the heat of battle out there, it feels like an hour. She is going to be frustrated. Important for her to get herself settled as Lisa Norden gets on her bike through transition, now in second place due to some errors from Fenella Langridge in transition.
Yeah, the silver medalist in the Olympics 2012, the Swedish time trial national champion. She's great on the bike, so I think Langridge will definitely be missing that company, may try and get right up to her. I think also Norden will miss the company of Langridge. Sometimes it's great to be on your own, but the accountability early on when you're trying to get away from those really elite chase packs, it's nice to have another person with you. So shame to see that.
Again, shame to see it, but I think a lot of these women were looking pre-race and anticipating, given the petite size of this field, that there was going to be a lot of separation, that a lot of these women were going to be on their own all day. I think some of them were going to feel a little uncomfortable if there was a big group dynamic, because on a course that's as challenging as this, if you're stuck in the middle of a group of 6, 7, 8 athletes, and they're taking to a climb and they're pushing a pace that you're not necessarily comfortable with, it's forcing you to make a decision then and there if you're racing your race or racing the athletes around you, and it's always a difficult decision. Again, we heard Lionel talk about it in the heat of battle. What do you decide? Do you stick to your guns and stick to your race plan, or do you race the athletes around you, because you can miss an opportunity there, as we see Haley Chura making her way up the road. Again, the athlete in front of her, that's going to be a professional male athlete. Haley swam well into the pro men's field and is well on her way here on the bike course.
Correct, keeping in mind that 5-minute difference. You can see the fellas have been an hour into their race, the women 55 minutes, so not uncommon to see the top women make up that gap. As we roll right back to transition, we can see some more fancy footwork here, and you're going to see a lot of contenders. There you have Kat Matthews and Daniela Ryf, both in red, two true contenders for a podium finish, if not a win. Watching some more wetsuit struggles, Didi.
Yeah, this is a group of a lot of favorites here. Daniela Ryf, Skye Munch in that group, Jocelyn McCauley in that group, Annie Haug in that group, Rach McBride with a great swim in that group, as you mentioned, Kat Matthews and Maja Stage Nielsen, the Danish athlete. So a big group here of women, and this is what I talked about. These women are going to have to make some choices now. If someone's going to push the pace and be super aggressive, athletes need to decide, am I going to stick to my patience game that I talked about going into this race, or am I going to race and stay with the athletes around me? And that's a decision they're going to have to make in this big group.
It's about a 2-minute gap as well. If you kind of go from Langridge Norden back to the 4th and 5th, where you see Skye Munch, Daniela Ryf, Jocelyn McCauley, Rach McBride. So great stuff for these athletes, I think, to be, yes, make the decisions, but also race the race. So this is why we come here, big stakes and also big field. You're looking at David McNamee there on camera, cranking along. He looks great. And again, watch out for this fellow when he puts that bike down in transition too, because he is so good when it comes to running.
See that thing John Morant has? That's a hypervolt. That thing he uses to warm up and stay loose before he throws it down. That thing Tony Finau uses on course between shots. Ooh, that's money. That thing Robin and I use before and after we're on the bike so we can ride harder tomorrow. That thing Erlen Holland uses before smashing it into the back of the net. That thing that's for everyone. The Hypervolt from Hyper Ice. Give your body the daily relief it's been asking for.
But Vejo is a town on that section, that northwest section of the course, where you do have the wall, and that's a steep section of road. Very painful, very short, but very painful. So certainly watch out for that. But very good. I think you're right. I think that's where people will hurt others. As we look at Sam Laidlow, we had so much fun 2 weeks ago watching this young Frenchman race at Ironman. Oh, I'm sorry. Perhaps I can't read numbers, but it looks like a 28 to me, and Sam Laidlow would be who I would call that. But nonetheless, we watched this young man lead Ironman Texas for the bulk of the race. So that was exactly what we're looking at. Now we're looking at Florian Anger from Germany. But coming back as we look at this fine figure here, a perfect aerodynamic picture, I want to talk about Sam Laidlow, young.
Yes.
Brash, confident, been in the sport since he was 3. His family owns a coaching company. We learned so much about this. Really a fantastic guy that then fell apart on the run. And he didn't push himself to a 2:30-something marathon at the end of the day. So he's here. He could be pretty devastating at the front of this race for a while. He likes to be up front.
And the question remains, was that performance a few weeks ago, did he shut it down when he realized it wasn't happening? And what sort of dent is that going to leave in his performance today? I mean, we look at the handful of athletes that are doubling that race at Ironman Texas just a couple of weeks ago, and this race, again, a curious tactic. I think, it takes a certain kind of athlete to be able to back up Ironman races that way. Ben Hoffman, again, we mentioned, is an athlete who is certainly capable of doing it. We look on the women's side, Jocelyn McCauley, known for her frequency of racing and has done it in the past, but racing that kind of Ironman frequency, man, it's not for everyone.
It's certainly not, and I think it does take a unique mindset as well. So of course, Matt Lietto referenced this, and Ben talked about how Hoffman talked about how he did this on purpose to try and get a timing that worked. You see that. I've seen Lindsay Corbin do that as well, where she'll time Kona to follow Ironman Wisconsin.
Yes.
My only thing is the danger of trying to duplicate stuff is we as athletes evolve every day, every month, every year, and stuff that worked back then doesn't work now always. Let's ask Lionel Sanders about that. He's felt that pain. The bottom line is it's a risky move. You can't ever calculate how you're going to feel. I like it. By the way, it's a great story, and I love watching Ben Hoffman race. I'm excited to see him. He'll be in the mix. So to me, it's exciting questions that are still unanswered.
And another unanswered question is how this woman is going to fare in her first Ironman World Champion effort. You're looking at Olympic silver medalist Lisa Norden, who is very much at home on a bicycle, had some injuries that forced her into the cycling world, and she proved to have quite a bit of talent there. And she said pre-race, I believe it was in her Fighting Chance profile, that when she brought the volume of swimming back up after her injury and brought running back into the equation, she was really able to maintain that cycling. And I think that's definitely an indication of not what an injury did to you, but for you. It allowed her to focus on her cycling and really bring it to the next level of she's close to the air of untouchable on the bike. And I think she's going to prove that out there on this challenging course today as we take a look at our men's leaderboard. Daniel Baekkegard up at the front, 22-second gap to Florian Anger, and then we see them again, the times scrolling behind 2 minutes 18 second to one of our race favorites there, Christian Blumenfeld came out. That's about the same again as it was out of transition. This is from transition, by the way, as we look at these splits roll across the gaps in the men's race.
Okay, so remember, everyone, you're looking at Baekkegard, Laidlow. We've got some true talent in here. The man in blue from Germany, Florian Anger, he did win Ironman Barcelona in 2019. Look at that long line of it's not that long of a line, but look at that line of athletes. Remember, at this point, we discussed, look at the difference there. So this is what I was about to say. When you see
Camera
that front
angles.
angle, you feel like they are sitting on each other's wheel, and then you pan out and you see a side angle and you realize, okay, the camera's playing tricks. So before everyone in the world of the internet starts hammering these guys, rest assured our officials are with them, and those are bigger gaps than you'd think.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
And this is a World Championship event, and we have World Championship officials out there, so these guys will have all eyes on them to make sure that draft distance is being adhered to. And again, this is not a course where you can take your eyes off the road. When you're in a group like that, you've got to maintain that focus and make sure. And we see some movement here on a little roller up the hill here as our athletes. We see some passes trying to be made here. Once you start that pass, that's Christian Blumenfeld coming through, passing on various sides of the athletes. Again, safety always first, and the officials will monitor that. Shouldn't be passing on both sides of the athletes, but into a corner like that, sometimes it's necessary for the safety.
So as we're getting a nice overhead look here down at this group of men that are an hour and 8 minutes into this race that will ultimately take quite a bit longer. You're popping in here on
Braden Curry. Sorry, that was Braden Curry. I thought it was Blumenfeld. I
no,
saw the
correct.
Red Bull. Yeah.
That's right. And so remember, folks, this is our front of the pack, and we'll give Braden Curry a little grace there as he passed on the right. The man comes from New Zealand. They ride left past right there, so keep that in mind as well. But let's just talk about the rules for a split second here for those of you that were wondering what happens. And Didi mentioned this. If you make a pass, so you have to have 12 meters between yourself and the rider in front of you. Everyone must have 12 meters. So let's just use an example. If we see Bakegaard kind of come into that 12-meter zone, accidentally or intentionally, you have to immediately move to the left, 2 meters to the left, and make the pass in 25 seconds. So these are the rules. And let's say you're the 8th person and you accidentally sneak in, or you intentionally sneak into that zone. You have to immediately move left, 25 seconds, and you have to continue to pass the entire train. You cannot slot in. You can't just decide you're going to pop yourself in. So you go for a big pass. Sometimes those moves, Didi, they're unintentional, and you have to back them up, and they hurt you because you're saying, oh, gosh, I was already at the proper power output.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get 25 seconds per athlete, which helps, but when you're trying to pass 7 or 8 athletes, that's quite a surge there as we come back to our women's leader and Haley Chura as we look back at our rolling results. Haley Chura's swim time 51:57, followed by Lisa Norden and Fenella Langridge, who struggled there in transition, followed by the big pack, Skye Munch, Daniela Ryf, Jocelyn McCauley, Rach McBride with an outstanding swim there from Rach. Maja Stage Nielsen out of Denmark. Great swim from her. Annie Haug, our defending world champion. So some power in there. And Kat Matthews, the rookie, a lot of buzz about Kat Matthews. Then it's a huge gap. 8 minutes and 40 seconds back to the likes of Renee Kiley, Ruth Astle, Nikki Bartlett at nearly 9 minutes back. Laura Siddle, 9:40 back. Heather Jackson, 10:28 back. That's going to be a big gap for Heather Jackson to start picking away at.
Well, I tell you what, the key component here as we drop in on Lisa Norden is that these athletes remain motivated even when they're on their own out there in the on the highway. Stay motivated yourself when you're on your Ironman journey by joining the Ironman Virtual Club. So this is a way to test your progress by competing in virtual events, from sprint-style workouts to month-long distance challenges, and celebrate your achievements with exciting rewards towards Ironman gear. Best of all, know that when you join the Ironman Virtual Club, you're joining a global community of athletes proving that anything and anywhere is possible. So join today, IronmanVirtualClub.com.
And back to our men's race here. Again, some jockeying for the lead. These aren't necessarily position changes. This is the group possibly working together, taking turns at the front to continue to further the gap that they were able to establish in the swim. Everyone mindful here, everyone taking a look around, making sure that they're adhering to those draft zones, that they're making passes appropriately. You can see the motos. Yes, some of those are camera, but I guarantee you at least one of those is a race official.
And I think you can also see Braden Curry talking to the official, talking to the athletes. They're very vocal because what's happening is nobody's intentionally, you can gauge intent there. And nobody is trying to do the wrong thing, but you do need to see, as Braden is pulled over and is speaking to the official, most likely Jimmy Riccatello, checking the rules. I think that it's really important that you know here, the athlete on the outside left there does need to roll through. You do need to continue that progress, because if you're riding left, you are only allowed 25 seconds per athlete to pass. So that person needs to get up to the front, move back in. And what Curry was saying is, this is not right. We need to do something. Break this up. I'll say this, Didi. Early on, it's exceedingly difficult. This is where there's an advantage for Lisa Norden right now, Haley Chura and Fenella. They have space. They can really settle into their rhythm, their groove, whereas that bunch of 6 race horses, they're just battling each other.
Adrenaline is high. They come out of the water. They've got this lead. They've got this group. They've got to get themselves organized. And I think there's just a little bit of chaos in there right now. As we look at Lisa Norden, who looks amazing. We had a question on Facebook. We had Haley Chura, and we can see the difference between Lisa Norden. If you look at her rear wheel, that is a disc wheel. It's a solid rear wheel. The benefit of a disc, it acts like a sail on a boat. So no matter where the wind direction is coming from, it will hit that disc wheel and help propel you forward. So it is faster. We saw Haley Chura not riding a disc wheel. She's riding a traditional rear wheel with a rim. We had a Facebook question as to why she wouldn't be riding a disc. I think the wind conditions on the day could be such that some of our windier courses, Hawaii, Cozumel, they actually do not allow the discs because the wind tends to be pretty extreme in those conditions. And I think Haley's thinking, the wind could be like that today, and I don't want to risk it. Typically, when it's on the rear wheel, you don't get knocked around. It's that front wheel, the depth of that front wheel, where you feel like in a crosswind, you're going to get knocked around a bunch. I would have opted for a disc wheel, but Haley playing it safe and going with the traditional rim rear wheel, that's just a choice.
And we are talking about the full gas bike course here, 112 miles, that's right, 180 kilometers, starting out at Sand Hollow. You have one out and back before you get to the meat of the course, and this is where the action takes place. That was the 30-mile marker, another out and back as you come through Washington. The cool thing, Didi, on those out and backs, check a little progress. Where is everyone? This is where it gets meaty, because this is where you head up here to the wall and you're in Veo before you scream back on down the highway and complete the loop before starting it again, Didi. And that is how you finish Snow Canyon Park. That climb we know very well from the 70.3, but that is a full gas bike course. Didi, look at all that climbing. It starts at 3,000 feet. It finishes at 2,700 feet. And
let's talk a little bit about the specifics of that. The Veo loop, it's a 40-plus kilometer climb where the percentage grade varies. The wall is about a 6% grade. It's not very long, but it's extremely tough as we look at some of the beautiful topography here in St. George. Snow Canyon, again, only 5 miles and an average of 4.6% grade. Doesn't feel bad when you ride it in training, but where it comes in this race, I tell you, it's gonna zap the legs of the athletes out there today, particularly if the wind is up, and we need to check the wind direction to see what that's gonna do to these athletes today.
there you go. Nice look here of our lead pack. These guys racing along the highway in fine form.
The pursuit of excellence may look different for everyone, but the demands are the same. Dedication, hard work, and striving for greater health. It's something we understand at Intermountain Healthcare because we share your commitment to it.
It's something that just happened, whether or not he was assessed a penalty. He could have been, but again, our officials really trying to judge intent. And in that case, I don't think intentions were poor.
I think you're spot on there. And so we're here, we're watching these guys really look pretty great here at the front of the race. And of course, we're going to expect to see a lot of stuff change it up. But right now, looking at Kyle Smith taking his turn at the front. And Didi, realistically, it's time to settle in, right? It's time to find your rhythm, do your thing, get moving. Really, I'm talking about this as though I've been at the front of an Ironman World Championship. We got a couple of characters that have been at the front of an Ironman World Championship. Seven at the end of the day. These guys have probably spent millions of hours at the front of the Ironman World Championship. Who am I talking about, by the way? Well, of course, these two legends, Greg Welch, our good friend, and Mark Allen, the most amazing character I've ever met. Mark Allen, you're one of my favorite people on the whole planet. So thank you for being here. Take it away.
Well, he's one of the funniest guys, and like you were saying, Michael, yep, I would like to think that there's 7 Ironman World Championships between us, and 6 of them actually belong to him, 1 for myself. And Michael, it is true that you've never been at the front of an Ironman World Championship like we have, but thanks for bringing that up. Makes us feel really good. We're having a great time, aren't we, Mark? We're off to a great start of the 2021 Intermountain Healthcare Ironman World Championship presented by Utah Sports Commission right here in St. George, Utah, in southwestern Utah. Absolutely gorgeous. Had a great sunrise just a few moments ago. Swim was fantastic, and now we've got some action heating up on the bike course.
Absolutely, and it's so exciting to have the day here because we have had just months and months and months of speculation. We've been tracking every one of the top pros, what they've been doing, what they haven't been doing, what's been working, what hasn't, and of course, as we know, there's a lot of casualties along the way, but we have one of the most amazing races taking place right now. Looking at the men's field here, there's kind of like, there's going to be this cleanup wagon coming from behind with a lot of the big guns on the bike slowly making their way toward the front. Let's see how long these guys out in front can actually hang out there, or maybe they're even going to open up the gap a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we can call it the Worth wagon, and I think that Cameron Worth is going to be, responsible for bringing, guys like Lionel Sanders, Sam Long, Sebastian Kinley through the field. Right now we're watching, our women's leader, Hayley Tura. On the women's side, though, Mark, a lot more spread out, as you saw that Hayley had, quite a good gap coming out of the water. Unfortunately, Fenella had a little bit of, issues with a wetsuit, allowed Lisa Norden to get a little bit up the road, and Lisa Norden, coming off, that silver medal in 2012 in London, become the Swedish national time trial champion, and we know what she can do on the bike ride, but the big power is going to come from Daniela Ryf, just sitting back in around about 5th spot right now. She's towing Anne Haug, Kat Matthews, and a few of our other favorites.
Well, and the big question a lot of people have been asking is, what body type is best for this course? You have Daniela, she's sturdier, she's stronger. Physically, she's a bigger person than Anna Haug, who is very slight and light and can, she can click off the miles on that marathon, which is something that is going to be the icing on the cake today. But the real question is, will she have the durability in this demanding of a course, which has, over 7,000 feet of climbing on the bike, and then you've got a marathon with over 1,500 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, exactly. So 7,433 feet of elevation gain today on the bike course. Sorry, and like you say, about 1,500 feet on the run, but. I would have to look at saying that, Daniela Ryf coming back into form. Then you've got Kat Matthews, Skye Minch. You're talking about 3 of our, best cyclists in the field. Annie Haug, is it worth it for her to go with these women or just run her own race at that time? We'll find out after about the 60, 70 mile mark. And we were talking about it off air here, Mark, but we both think that the bike course is going to start, at about the 80 mile or the 130 kilometre marker, because as they go through Snow Canyon Parkway, for the second time, they'll be making a right-hand turn and going up through Snow Canyon. We've got the wall up there. They were out at Gunlock in the first lap. A very difficult bike course and a bit of wind coming.
That's true, and as you see, a lot of the athletes have disc wheels, which that was also a question. Do I use a disc, which is really good in wind, but if it's too windy, then you get blown all over the road and you end up riding a lot farther than 112, 180K. But a lot of them have chosen that disc, which can also be just a little bit heavier, and with this amount of elevation gain, it can be a detriment. But clearly, with a disc, there's this mindset that's saying, this is going to be a fast race, even with all of the climbing. And as you can see here, it kind of looks flat, but what you cannot see is that it's 3-4% grade. So they just have these long, steady grades that they're having to climb up and go down, climb up and go down, which if you let that get to you, kind of on the upgrades, you think, gee, this should be flat. I should be going faster, when in reality, you're already adding elevation gain into your legs, which you have to save the energy for.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at this right now, deceptive angles, of course, we've got drone shots, we've got cameras on the ground, we're panning from the side from our motos out there as well. But when you look at the course overview or, the profile of the bike course online, if you go to Ironman.com and go into World Championships, you can view the elevation gains and losses. You will see that there's a simple elevation upward swing on the first part mark, then just up and down undulating. But once you get to that 60-mile marker, it's when it starts to go up. At 80 miles it goes up sharply. It comes back down again when you're descending, but once you go back through Snow Canyon, it rises up sharply, to finish off that bike course today. But Hayley Chura's, setting a cracking pace right now and doing very well. But the women's race, quite open at this point in time, but the men's race, we've got two significant packs forming and a little bit of diciness out there. I would say that they have to be very careful about their positioning. Now, we're talking about, little penalties here and there, but they have to be very careful about the blocking situation as well.
Yeah, when you only have 25 seconds to pass, that sounds like a lot of time, but at the speeds these guys are going, they're already kind of at top end. So to pass, you really have to say to yourself, I'm actually going way too slow and I have a lot more to give, because if you're kind of at your limit of what you feel like you can sustain and then you try to pass on top of that, you're going to be using that anaerobic physiology, that carbohydrate burning physiology, which becomes very difficult to replace as the race goes on. The men's field definitely has a little bit more congestion up in the front, and as you said, Greg, one of the factors is going to be making sure that you keep that non-drafting distance, and then if you do make a pass, you have to make a commitment to do that so that you don't get stuck out there and pass in, let's say, 35 seconds and get a penalty.
Yeah, exactly. And we're watching Lisa Norden right now. She's doing an absolutely fantastic race. She's already taken a little bit over a minute outside of, off the leading time of Hayley Chura. So that the legs of the champ from Lisa Norden in Sweden, being a national time trial champion, she's really getting her legs warmed up right now. After a chilly swim, it wasn't that bad. People are calling for, oh my gosh, it was so cold down there at Sand Hollow this morning. It was 64 degrees, people. Not too bad. Around about 17 degrees in the Celsius range, 16, 17. So not too bad out there today.
No, absolutely not. And when you have a wetsuit, 64 degrees is actually quite comfortable. You don't want it to be 72 because then you overheat. And one of the big things that has been speculated on today is, will the wind come up? We've been all watching the weather reports, and it seems to be changing daily. Yesterday they were saying windy today, but here we are at Grand Central Station in the thick of everything with the MDOT behind us in the center of town here, and there's not a breath of wind. Of course, it can be very different out on the course, but at this point in time, it's actually looking like pretty absolutely ideal conditions. Not too hot yet, of course. That's going to change. The wind could change. But at this moment, as you can see, this is one of the most just absolutely stunningly beautiful courses you're going to find anywhere in the world here in St. George, in this greater Zion area. We have these rock formations that are just millions of years old that were under the sea, and then they got shoved up, and they have iron ore that creates that brilliant red coloring, and you're just going to see some of the most amazing, dramatic backdrop for the Ironman World Championship here.
Absolutely spectacular shots coming your way there. And we can see right now that in our women's race, we can report to you. This is Daniel Beckergaard in the men's race, of course. But in the women's race, I just wanted to report this really quickly, is that Daniela Ryf has already taken 2 minutes out of our leader, whereas Lisa Norden has taken 1 minute. But back over to the conditions as we're looking at Sam Laidlaw right now. You were mentioning the wind. Now, the wind's going to be coming out of the southwest, Mark, which means that on both of the climbs today, they're going to be climbing with a tailwind. So that's going to negate, the slowness of our climbs today and the overall speed of our athletes in this 112 miles or 180K. But for the age grouper, the wind's going to get up at around about midday when our professional athletes are already on the run. 16, 17 miles an hour consistent, but with 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts. That can be pretty tough.
It can be tough, and you can look at wind either positive or negative. So as Greg said, the wind will be following them up the climbs, which will help them get up the climbs, but at the same time, it'll make their body temperatures go up because there's not that that cooling effect of going into the wind. So it's a trade-off. You get that help from the wind going up, but at the same time your core temperature is going to go up, and that's also something that all of these athletes have worked on, trying to figure out how much can they push, how high can they get their core temperature before it becomes a detriment. They're right on that fine edge. Daniel Beckegaard, by the way, they had a race here, a 70.3 race, a year ago right now. And he was actually up in the front with Sam Long, with Lionel Sanders. He was starting to pull away on the run, but then he found out that he had a penalty on the bike, and he had to drop back. So we never saw how good he could be on this course, but clearly he's comfortable. He pushed it in the swim, and he's not afraid of trying to see if he can open things up. But I'm with you. I'm curious to see what Cameron Wurf is going to do from behind.
Greg, I have a question for you.
And go on ahead there, Didi.
Greg, quick question for you both. As you look forward to the bike course, I want to take a look back at the swim. Any major surprises there? I think Matt Lieto was having a bit of a coronary with some of the swim performances there. In particular, Peter Hemrick, he said that was a game-changing swim from him. Any surprises from you both out of the swim that will change the dynamics of the race going forward?
Look, Matt Lieto doesn't know what he's talking about anyway, because he had Lauren Brandon there, telling him what to say. So, take that equation out. But no, I'm just kidding. Like Matt knows this event like the back of his hand. But Mark and I were talking about, Haley Chura being a great, swimmer. We all know that. Fenella Langridge, we all know that. Lisa Norden, former Olympic silver medalist, but in the men's race, of course, there were a couple. I thought the shocker was Christian Blumenfeld being so far back, but I thought that Hemrick from the Netherlands had a great swim.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the biggest surprise for me is that Blue didn't make that cut. He comes from Olympic speed. He has that speed in the water. You don't win a gold medal being a lousy swimmer. So he was a couple minutes back, which surprised me, and also then a little bit of a surprise that next group that was 4 minutes back. When you have a wetsuit, there's usually less of a gap than that kind of thing. But hey, it's an Ironman. It's getting the nerves out early. It's kind of trying to settle in, figuring out once again how fast and how hard can I go.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Mark. On the, I thought it would have been around about 3 minutes. To that group, but it was 4, just a touch over, and then just that last part right there was with Blue. He has been a little bit sick over the last couple of weeks. So anyway, Mark Allen and I, we are down here, and we're going to be here all day long. I will be, and Mark's going to move his way around the course here today. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us here today. 6-time Ironman world champion. Always a treat to have Mark with us.
Well, that's great stuff. Mark and Greg, 2 legends, 2 great guys, and 2 great brains to be able to pick throughout the race and hear their insight. I think next time what I'd come back to pose a question would be really about that group 4 minutes back, hitting it with Sam Long, with Cam Wurf, with Lionel Sanders, with Chris Leiferman. I'm curious what they think about that, because although they are usually front pack swimmers, those 2 champions themselves were. That pack of 4, Didi, who knows? Really what they're doing back there. It'll be fun to see as we really highlight this beautiful race kit. Haley Chura, the American, first on the road right now, cranking it through this gorgeous Southwest St. George landscape. Something else I'm looking forward to, and we've talked about the Veo loop, and you mentioned the length of the climb.
Yes.
at least I could be off on this one, but I feel like the climb itself is more of just gradual quad burning elevation gain at low percentages. It's like it just kind of gets you, and then when you get there, bam, you get hit with this steep hill.
You get hit with the wall, right? It gives and it goes. I mean, it's undulating, so you have periods of climbing and then it'll flatten out, period of climbing and then it'll flatten out. But the net is 40 kilometers of climbing. Giving the wind direction, the athletes may have a slight tailwind. It's going to be a cross tailwind. I believe I heard Greg say winds out of the southwest. So it will be pushing the athletes up, which I think is far better. If you ride that loop in a headwind, boy, the difference in times to make that climb up to Veyo can be astronomical. So a little bit of favor for the athletes, but where they're going to feel that wind is on that descent. It's going to be a crosswind as they descend back into town before attacking Snow Canyon. As we look again at some passes being made here, athletes burning matches. I don't see the value here in doing that. Do you?
Yeah, I don't. But I think I think these are maybe unintentional passes. When you hit a climb like this, I feel like immediately a 12-meter gap can accidentally become very easily a 10-meter gap. If you do, you have to commit. This is the way I say it for folks that are wondering. There is only one way out of the draft zone. If you enter a draft zone, you can only leave from the front. So what I mean by that is, if Curry comes up into that draft zone, he cannot just back out. You've got to pull over to the left and pass and then move back to the right. It is the only exit of a draft zone. So Curry at the front, looking over, having a few words, and then pulling in. Eventually begin to be pulling in to the right side there. You look at this, Didi. This is an elite pack, and I don't think that anyone would have planned and said, "Hey, who's going to be up front?" But right now, you definitely have Braden Curry, Kyle Smith, Sam Laidlow, Florian Anguer, and then of course Daniel Bakegaard, and a whole host of motorcycles and officials.
And a whole host of motorcycles and officials. Interesting, Peter Hemrick, who Matt Lieto was so excited about. He's moved down a little bit now, 3 minutes back, and we look at Cameron Worf. That group not making any time on this front group.
No, and I guess I'd wonder, based on everything that all the experts are saying and hearing all these commentary, yourself included, should there be a big gap? Should there be a big change? Almost realistically, inside this short of a distance, I would hate to see that 2 minutes come down real quick. It would mean to me that maybe Blumenfeld's getting desperate, which there's never any reason for an athlete of his stature to get nervous or to get antsy. Everybody fears him on the run. I think he mentioned in his interview he fears Gustav Iden. No fear of that today since he didn't start the race. But it's interesting to me when you see where everyone holds a level of respect for everyone's discipline. Blumenfeld strong on the bike, but most can outrun almost everyone in this field.
Yep. As we look at Haley Chura hanging on to the lead here, superstar swimmer Haley Chura established that lead. She is being chased by Lisa Norden. Lisa now 54 seconds down to Haley. So she has made up well over a minute in the opening 9 to 10 miles. That's at 9.2 miles. So Lisa Norden making inroads there, as is Fenella Langridge. Again, Fenella lost that bit of time in transition, couldn't get the wetsuit off. Brutal to watch, but she is back underway here, riding by herself at 122 back. And then we have that group of women, Daniela, Skye, Kat, Jocelyn, Maya Stage, Annie Haug off the back of that group.
I was just taking a peek there as well at the...
we have a pass about to happen here.
At least we have a catch happening. And